$100 million, which has since been amended to $340 million. The Parliament of Ghana has reallocated some 80 million cedis earmarked for the construction of the National Cathedral project from the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture to the Ministries of Roads and Highways and Communications. This follows a proposal by the majority to the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, for the 80 million cedis to find space in the respective ministries, a proposal he accepted. But speaking to Pan-African News on the latest developments concerning the construction of the edifice, him to rescind it. Daniel, an auto mechanic, thinks it is wrong for the president to use the taxpayers' money to pursue his personal pledge to God. This, he believes, is an act of bad faith due to the country's recent economic struggles.
He made a promise to God. He didn't make the promise pledging that he's going to use the national coffers to build a cathedral for God. So if that is true, then I think that one is wrong, because we, the citizens, we are suffering. We are suffering so much so that you have to make sure that it channels the funds that was solicited for we the populace. You have to use those funds to help the populace, not to build a national cathedral. The nation has a whole lot of problems, big problems that he has to look at, and not. The National Cathedral is not a problem. It's not a challenge that he has to focus his attention to. It's about the populace. I think that's what for now I can say.
Janet, a petty trader, who also indicated that the National Cathedral project can be diversified to fund the construction of hospitals to improve Ghana's healthcare delivery system, which is currently in tatters.
Emu ya dinka asa womu afa blo nya ho we enkoko ha ntino omo mbla fom kakra maye na mpa cho se ansole no obi awo na so dan nti ya so dan no obesi ama the whole Ghana and me enshadan ye obetumi dia ya hospital and say school e dia abo man no na sorry dan de pa cho be yanka na no ntwensan kakra.
Another food vendor shared her opinion that much needed to be done to improve on Ghana's economy. Hence, all attention by government must be channeled to pursue this task.
Many Adrian cry. Always gave not the bayard of Papa and the Papa saying, say, or the Quackos or the Cosina, and Mina Baba and answer me. Eh, ye pay skull, or many wired, or my dollar and confirm. Why?
Speaking to the aggrieved individual bondholders in the meeting at the Finance Ministry, the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, indicated that his outfit is poised to ensure 80% participation to meet the parameters in alleviating the burden on individual bondholders.
The question really becomes that given the state that we are in with the economic crisis, as Prof prayed us in, what is it that we all can do to make sure that this happens? And what is it that we do to make sure that we are alive after it has happened? And so therefore we have proposed a program in which there's been a lot of pushback and very high decibel level on some issues. The exchange program, I think we had targeted something like 80% participation as a way to get enough to ensure that we are within the perimeter. But as long as we are able to be in the perimeter of 55% our debt to GDP, we should be able to go forward.
The deliberations further resulted in the establishment of a technical committee to run and manage other issues that may surface during the process of alleviating the challenges of bondholders. Sena Hosi is the convener for the Aggrieved Individual Bondholders Forum.
The consensus to have a technical team review the options that we have proposed is very welcome. And we look forward to working with your team, effective tomorrow, as indicated, for us to find a common path forward. We have clearly maintained our argument that we constitute a very small portion of the pie, which we believe should not hurt. But the impact on this subsector is the harshest. We commit to working with you on your plans to improve your revenue generation, to working with you on the ways to rationalize the expenditure sustainably and also manage the general Ghanaian expectation.
The government on Monday extended the deadline for debt exchange program to January 31st to enable it to build consensus for the program. The Ministry of Finance in a tweet said the extension, which was second since the domestic debt exchange program was launched on December 5th last year, was effected after several groups of individual bondholders petitioned government to exempt them from the program. The individual bondholders were invited to amend the program after labor unions forced government to exempt pension funds from the program. Investors will be made to swap the existing cedi-dominated bonds into a package of 12 new local currency bonds, one maturing each year between 2027 and 2038. The government will also pay accrued interest and cash tender fee to holders of local 2023 notes. Creditors in the 2023 bonds will also receive a different exchange ratio allocation, the ministry said without offering further details.
Ghana is facing a very challenging economic situation amid an increasingly difficult global economic environment. On December 5th, 2022, the government of Ghana launched Ghana's domestic debt exchange program, an invitation for the voluntary exchange of approximately 137 billion Ghana cedi of the Republic, including ESLA and Dachi bonds, for a package of new bonds to be issued by the Republic. In an exclusive interview, President of the Transport Forum, Jacob Ajiman, reacted to its impact and also outlined measures and solutions that will help yield.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer.
Let me start by saying a good morning to you. Thank you very much for choosing Pan-African Television. Having chosen Pan-African Television, you've chosen Radio Gold 90.5 FM, which we are live on, and you have also chosen the several affiliates that are currently tuning to us. The mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji, is what you're watching. Thank you. And how was your week? Well, it's been quite an interesting week for a newsman. And that is why we are here this morning to discuss the issues that made the news this week. We usually pick 3 issues that we hope to go through before the program concludes. And today we are talking about, first, the issue of the National Cathedral. And there are 2 things that happened this week. When this week started, Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa put out some documents that raises 2 questions about payments made to a company called JNS Talent Company Limited, and then the other one about issues regarding the real identity of Reverend Victor Kusi-Boateng and the man who owned the JNS Talent Company Limited. Since then, he's put out several other documents, and he has, on behalf of the minority, filed a petition with Shraj for some investigations into the JNS company and also into Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng, or Kobna Edu Jemfi, as we've come to know him. Well, that will be the topic for our very first discussion. But there's one other thing that happened under the National Cathedral. This week we've been seeing the resignation letter of Bishop Dag Hayward Mills, actually confirming some of the issues that Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa has been raising in the public domain, including the critical question: what is our job as trustees of the National Cathedral? And that's the very first issue that we'll be talking about this morning. And then we'll move on to another issue that has to do with we've been talking about it for some time now, the domestic debt exchange program, especially the fate of individual bondholders. The Ministry of Finance has announced another extension to the deadline, the offer they've put on the table. The new deadline is 30th January, but the individual bondholders are massing up. They've come into a forum that now has over 200,000 members, and they are asking for only one thing: to be exempted from the domestic debt exchange program. They have been to a couple of places. One of the places is Parliament. I remember the picture. I saw Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa was in the picture. They've petitioned Parliament. They've been to the Gamanche. They've been to the Catholic Bishops' Conference, among several other places. They've also met the Finance Minister. The Finance Minister has actually, they've agreed on one thing: let's form a committee first to look at the issues you are raising and what other alternatives we can explore. So that's our second topic: the domestic debt exchange program, in the individual bondholders and matters arising. And then we'll conclude with the fact that you have to be paying more for water and electricity, because PRC has once again announced new tariffs that will take effect from 1st February. The last time we paid was 1st September 2022. We are paying another one 1st February 2023. And the indications show that we may be seeing more in the coming months. So those are the issues we'll be talking about this morning. And to joining me for this discussion today, sitting to my immediate left, is member of the MPP's communication team, Mr. Solomon Owusu, joining us. And sitting right by him is Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, is member of Parliament for North Tongu, joining us. And then we'll also be joined by Mr. Nii Yarboi Annan, who is a financial analyst, and then Ama Pratt, who is the channel manager and host of The Couch here on Pan-African Television, to complete the panel for today. A big thank you to our affiliate stations, and we have to dive right into it with the National Cathedral and matters arising. And since we have the architect in the studio this morning, we'll start with him on this issue. Honorable, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Distinguished viewers, this is the first time in the year that I am coming on Alhaji and Alhaji. So let me convey Happy New Year wishes to all viewers across the globe. It is important for me to lay down some parameters. Throughout the week, I have been a subject of vicious attacks, name calling, vituperations, and some people have thought that the more vulgar they get and the more bile they pour on my person, perhaps I will be deterred or I'll be intimidated, and so will stop pursuing what is clearly my constitutional mandate as a member of parliament. I would like to emphasize that I am not one to be intimidated or to be cowed by those very ridiculous attacks, to put it mildly. We all must recognize as a country that the very essence of having a parliament, having members of parliament, is for them to carry out oversight. It's for that institution to be the bastion of checks and balances to make sure that due diligence is carried out. That is your fundamental duty as a member of parliament. So people have to put in proper context what is going on. It is simply a member of parliament doing his work. It is simply parliament as an institution living up to its mandate. I recall not too long ago when we found ourselves in this economic crisis and government announced this bitter debt exchange program. There were many prominent Ghanaians who took to the media and said that we will not blame government alone, that is the executive arm alone. We will also blame parliament. I had many people say that. And why did they say they will blame parliament? They said because parliament has been docile. Parliament allowed all of these reckless borrowing. The borrowing, which is now 104.6% of GDP, according to the World Bank. That recklessness, parliament has a hand in it. We then had to adduce evidence that we spoke extensively during the debate, particularly in the 7th Parliament, when the borrowing started, average $3 billion, $3 billion. And we reminded people that some of us had to even raise conflict of interest issues in the Franklin Templeton matter. And I was sent by my caucus to engage with SEC, the Securities and Exchanges Commission of the United States of America. I traveled all the way as ranking member of the Foreign Affairs Committee. That matter is still being investigated, though the Americans have kept so long, I must emphasize. We did all of that. And yet, to some people, it was not enough. They think that we didn't push hard enough to have averted the economic crisis we have today. Then you remember in history under President Kufuor's tenure, Parliament was criticized in addition to the Finance Ministry at the time for contracting a CNTCI loan, even though many people said, look, the executive who brought it have to be blamed. But there were some who said that Parliament should have done more due diligence, particularly in discovering that CNTCI address led to a hairdressing salon. This was in 2004. So there have been instances where the Ghanaian public has felt that they expect more from their legislators and they want their legislators to be more scrutinous, more meticulous, and they should hold the executive in check, rein them in when they go rogue. So how is it that the same people who sometimes criticize Parliament, even when we adduce evidence that, look, we had our say, but they had their way, they railroaded with their numbers, you still hear them say that, look, we didn't see you fighting hard enough? How is it that these same people, this week, you hear some of them saying that, oh, I mean, is he not getting too sensational? Is he not, are we not supposed to leave the anointed? And all of that. Doesn't the Bible say that we should not touch the anointed? I mean, and all kinds of excuses that we want to make. So you see, we can't have it both ways. We can't blow hot and cold. We either want a strong parliament, we either want diligent members of parliament who will be meticulous, who will do their work without fear or favor, and will give us the results that we deserve, will protect the public purse, and will save the crumbs that we have left after this economic crisis that we have been plunged into. We either want that or we don't. So I just want to state without equivocation that absolutely nothing would deter us from doing our work. No matter the cacophonous attacks out there, we will not. Because I must say that in all honesty, the overwhelming majority of Ghanaians appreciate what we do. I have been absolutely touched by the outpouring of support, love, affection, admiration, encouragement from the vast majority of Ghanaians. I must place that on record. There are eminent clergy, prominent citizens who have called us to commend us, to pray for us, and to ask us not to give up. And that those few hirelings should not discourage us from doing our work. And this morning, I want to salute the vast majority of Ghanaians. Those on social media, those who cannot reach us, those who are praying for us, and those who keep encouraging us to keep going, to carry out our constitutional mandate for God and country. I want to assure all those people that their prayers, their encouragement is very much appreciated. And indeed, it drowns the cacophony of a few agents of those who are being exposed. Naturally, when you are exposing what looks like a well-orchestrated conspiracy, when you are exposing organized crime, you are certainly going to have some people who will be paid to do a hatchet job. But the vast majority of organic support, those are the people who really have the country at heart, who are patriots, who must be saluted. And I thank everybody this morning for the support. All of them are appreciated. It is most welcome. And we will continue to do our best to protect the public purse and to ensure that this country achieves its objective, the dreams of our founding fathers, which has eluded us for many, many years. It is time to change path, to change course. It is time to value principles. It is time to stand up for beliefs. It is time for us to channel resources into what matters, what will transform our country, what will end hunger, end poverty, end joblessness. Those are the things that we must come together to pursue. And I salute the overwhelming majority of Ghanaians who remain focused and who encourage us on this quest. I must also state, Sena, that in the pursuit of our constitutional mandate, there are many successes that we have chalked. And I'm very, very proud of those successes. Sometimes people forget. It is this same spirit of commitment, of meticulousness, of diligence that you recall saved this country more than $7 million in the Oslo Chancery scandal. You recall when we had to diligently discover that a chancery we were going to purchase, the government was going to buy in Oslo, Norway. The price had been inflated. The property which had been sold a year prior for $3.7 million. We were going to buy it for $12.2 million. We raised the alarm. Unfortunately, we were able to stop it. Later on, a new chancery property was bought at $5 million. So think about the savings and what those millions of dollars that we saved can be used for. Just think about it. Then you remember America. We saved this country over $800 million. Sometimes people forget. Ejapa, we blocked it. Even in this 2023 budget approval process, look at the tall list of successes. But for us, can you imagine this economic crisis that we face? We will have approved a new Accra International Conference Center project. 1.3 billion Ghana cedis at the convention rate at the time we were approving the budget. New embassies, all of that, we kicked against it. Many people have probably not realized that we disapproved of the budgetary allocation for the Special Development Initiative Secretariat at the presidency. We said it's needless. If you look at the things they said they will do in 2023, go around inspecting ambulances under one constituency, one ambulance, when there's a national ambulance service. That is an outright insult to the Ghanaian people. So we can't approve that. We can't approve another objective of the year under SDI Secretariat where they said they will go around distributing incubators. We said there is a Ghana Health Service. Use them. Another secretariat at the presidency called the Monitoring and Evaluation Secretariat. We disapproved of their budget. We said, look, there is monitoring and evaluation everywhere. In every ministry, department, agency. So don't bring this before us. We did not approve it. So there's a lot we are doing. And so the attempt by some people to make this some personal matter, to create the impression that some people are just anti-cathedral or anti-Reverend Kusi Boateng. It won't wash. Look at the tall list. Look, there are some of the discoveries that we have made that government have themselves commended us. They publicly stated that they didn't know. You remember the year of roads? The November 2019 budget presentation, when they presented year of roads and they left out the Volta region. Who discovered it? Didn't the finance minister come back to parliament the next day and commended us and said it was an oversight? So we are simply doing our work, and people must recognize that. This attempt to obfuscate and to make things look like there's a certain mischievous plot is going nowhere. I will be remiss if I do not talk about the outstanding work we did with monitoring the president's travels. The Skybath scandal. The 20,000 euros an hour ultra-luxury chartered jets matter. You remember when we started tracking, they said, oh, it can't be true. No, this is not true. We were spirited, we were determined, we continued. The president also thought that he could be stiff-necked and probably recalcitrant. And at some point, we will stop the monitoring and he'll get away with it. Even at some point, he changed strategy and was doing a meet me there. You remember? Where he pretends he's flying commercial from Accra and then the charter jet meets him midstream. We exposed that as well. We were there. And do you know the millions of Ghana cedis we have saved? After they meet me there, he saw that no, these guys, their surveillance system is just too sophisticated. We can't escape their net. At the time, when we put a value on the savings, I mean on the, not on the savings, but on the cost, 20,000 euros an hour, he has spent 30 million cedis. Imagine what 30 million cedis can do. How many hospitals that can build, how many schools, how many boreholes it can provide. 30 million cedis. When you have a presidential jet in good condition, in mint condition, in pristine condition, ordered by President Kufuor, he determined the specs. See President Kufuor's physique. He didn't have any issues with the jet. President Mills used it. President Mahama used it. As for President Akufo-Addo, he said it was not luxurious enough. His defense minister came to parliament and said the president cannot even bath in the skies with the presidential jet. And the irony is that on these trips, he goes to beg for money, goes to beg for debt forgiveness, goes to beg for financial assistance. The people he goes to beg don't travel this way. So I'm spending time to put out our scorecard, to put out other matters we have pursued diligently, vigorously, without fear or favor, for God and country, patriotically. We did not even put ourselves up. We didn't make it possible for any compromises. So how is it that suddenly, on the matter of the National Cathedral, people have forgotten that that's our constitutional mandate, and we have showed a certain consistency and a certain track record? People want to conveniently engage in selective amnesia. We are not going to allow that. We will remind the Ghanaian people of how hard we have worked to protect the public purse. There are times we may not have succeeded. There are times probably we could afford harder. And so we are learning the lessons, and we'll keep fighting harder because we know the kind of leaders we are dealing with. If they are not fought and exposed, we all will be in trouble. Now, let me come to the latest developments on the National Cathedral as have panned out this week. So, the year began with a serialization of new set of scandals on this whole National Cathedral project. And how ironic that a project which should glorify God, a project which should command all the purity, all the holiness, all the integrity that we can master, because we are building for God. How ironic that is, it has been a scandal-riddled project. I ask, if we were building for Satan, what would have happened? We say we are building a temple for God, and see the many scandals. See even how it started. Viewers should not forget that this is a project that was presented as a personal pledge by the president, that if the Lord helps him win the election, he will build a church to honor God. I know of so many individuals who have made these pledges, who are building churches. They keep it a personal pledge. How can a personal pledge metamorphose into a national obligation? that taxpayer funds must be used for. Deception, blatant lies. And you see, they did not only deceive the Ghanaian people, they deceived the clergy. And you recall some of them put their credibility on the line, said, look, we are not going to use your taxes. Archbishop Duncan Williams, the Reverend Joyce Aye, all of them put their reputations on the line. They also deceived the judiciary. You remember James Kwabena Bonfa's case, when he went to the Supreme Court and said, this is going to open the floodgates. Ghana is a secular nation. What will we do if the traditionalists say that they also want taxpayer funds to be used for a shrine, a national shrine? What will we say if the Muslims say that they want taxpayer funds to be used for a national mosque? What did the government tell the court? The government's lawyer, the Attorney General. I have here his statement of defense, which he filed on the 19th of April 2018. At page 41, this is what government told the apex court of the land. We consider the National Cathedral. We respectfully submit that in this case too, the involvement of the government is very limited in nature. The government only proposes to provide a piece of land for the construction of a National Cathedral by the different denominations. The funding for the construction and maintenance of the National Cathedral is to be provided by the Christian community and not government. It is also proposed by government that the cathedral will be available for likely secular uses, for some state funerals, Thanksgiving services, etc. So on the basis of this, James Kwabena Bonfa's case was dismissed at the Supreme Court. The judges said, oh, the government says they are only minimal contribute, just providing land. They are not going to use taxpayer funds. So James Kwabena Bonfa, your fears are not founded. You have no basis to say the floodgates will be open. The government has assured us no taxpayer funds will be used. Can you believe it? Building a temple for the Lord on grand deception. Not even the Supreme Court was spared in the blatant lies that they put out to deceive everybody. Now we know that sometime last year I began intercepting documents, warrants signed by the finance minister, copious withdrawals from state coffers, contrary to what the eminent clergy had been told, contrary to what the Supreme Court had been told, contrary to what Ghanaians had been told. Hundreds of millions of Ghana cedis. I first intercepted 25 million, then I intercepted 142 million, then I intercepted 32 million for David Ajayi. And it became clear that apparently taxpayer funds the Ghanaian government had made that the main source of funding a president's personal pledge. There had been no national consensus, no national debate, no debate in parliament. You can't find this project in the MPP's manifesto. It was not a promise to the Ghanaian people. When the Ghanaian people were voting for this president in all the 2 elections he contested and won, the last 2 elections, nowhere was this promise. Did Ghanaians know that they were going to vote for somebody who is coming to do this project? When did this become a national project? And yet, thanks to the vote of censure committee, when we compelled Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to present the full withdrawals, because at the time what we had intercepted was hovering around 200 million Ghana cedis. Now we know that he had withdrawn 339 million Ghana cedis. And with what is emerging with the latest scandals, he probably even withdrew more than that. 339 million Ghana cedis, which is equivalent at the time to $58 million. So Look at the deception and look at the wastage. Imagine what 339 million Ghana cedis could have done. So you see, you must link all of this to where we are now as a country. The economic crisis we face, it is these reckless decisions. Then let me come to the model that was adopted. Even if we must build a cathedral, even if we couldn't find unencumbered land anywhere, we couldn't find a green field anywhere. How many years have we been talking about decongesting the central business district? We adopted the most reckless, most insane approach. Unbelievably insane approach. As we speak, Ghana has no scholarship secretariat. It's been demolished. This pains me so much. Look, having worked in the education sector, and when you look at the history of that scholarship secretariat, elsewhere, those are buildings that are preserved because of the rich history, the caliber of persons who have obtained scholarship and processed their scholarships from there, from the likes of Osaje Kwame Nkrumah to Kofi Annan to Professor Mills, Professor Nana Jopekwe, you name it. It's been demolished. Passport office demolished. We had to look for 10 million cedis to build a new one. That is why when I say that the cost that has been bandied around that, oh, this project is costing the Ghanaian taxpayer $400 million is totally understated. When you do the analysis properly, the Ghanaian taxpayer will be burdened with more than $1 billion. How much is it going to cost us to replace the scholarship secretariat? Have you added that? Already, passport office is cost us 10 million cedis to replace it. Don't forget, judges' bungalows were demolished. All those judges had to be temporarily relocated in expensive dollar-denominated rent at cantonments, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Have you added that to the $400 million? Then we are now building permanent structures, expenditure that we can avoid, and channel that money into solving these schools under trees, communities without potable water. How reckless can you be? So we are building new judges' bungalows. Can you imagine? That is not all. Judicial Training Institute, very famed. It had built capacity, trained so many judges, eminent juries across Commonwealth jurisdictions. It was demolished. Now the Chief Justice is going around, cap in hand, looking for $50 million to build a new one. Add that to the $400 million cost of the project. That is not all. A diplomatic enclave, the Malian ambassador's residence, was not spared. They demolished the Malian ambassador's residence. Can you believe that? Now, we are spending millions of dollars buying a new one for him at Airport Residential. Can you believe that? Broke country. You say you want debt forgiveness. You say you can't pay people's life savings. People's bonds they have worked hard for decades. You can't pay. This is what you are doing with the people's money. The Malian ambassador is waiting for his new residence to be built. That is not all. Comsys IT firm demolished their headquarters. They have to be compensated. Waterstone Realty, they owned an apartment complex. It was demolished. More than 180 workers asked to go home. They are jobless as we speak. That company, Waterstone Realty, is now at the High Court demanding judgment debt, compensation of 120 million Ghana cedis. Add all of that to the cost. I mean, how reckless. And now we know when Bishop Dag Heward Mills resigned and sent several letters. You recall that I broke the news in July last year that Bishop Dakeward Mills has written several letters asking questions, raising the same issues that I'm raising about accountability, issues of lack of transparency. He was not being responded to. Now we know that that expose was not only true, but from the response from the National Cathedral Secretariat to the media, the press release of January 18, 2023, under the heading Resignation of Bishop Dakeward Mills and Matters Arising. Now we know, thanks to the Cathedral Secretariat, that it was the president taking all these decisions. If you read this paragraph, it says, the architect and the land, the site for the National Cathedral, had already been selected by the president before the appointment of the trustees by the president. All trustees were aware of this. I mean, is this a banana republic? Are we in some jungle? So the president of Ghana is above the procurement laws of this country. The president on his own decides that I'm choosing an architect. This is my architect I want. I'm choosing him. As if he's building a private house. I have chosen my architect. I have chosen my location. Everybody in the way, your properties will be demolished. So this is a very good piece of evidence that we have now. And now we know who was responsible for the most reckless decision any government in the history of our country has taken. The most mindless decision. Now we know. The President of the Republic, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, without recourse to the Constitution, without recourse to the laws of our country. Don't forget that on the 4th of July last year, I raised a right to information request to the PPA, asking them if they know about this project and if it has gone through the public procurement laws, if the laws had been respected. They were swift and efficient. The next day, the 5th of July, they responded and they said that this project has not been known to them. They have absolutely no idea. And I have a copy of that letter here, 5th July, signed by the Chief Executive Officer of the PPA, that they have no knowledge at all about this project. So this is a president who's become a monarchy. Ghana is no longer a constitutional democracy. We don't have the constitution, we don't have the procurement law. And he decides, this is where I want my cathedral. Demolish all the properties. This is the architect I have chosen. Give him the contract. Pastor, stay off it. For architect, for location is none of your business. Stay away. I have made a choice. Under what law? Under what law? So, Sena, this has been the most scandalous project. Right from the outset. Right from the foundations. Deception. Blatant falsehood. No accountability. Lack of transparency. And you know, this year we've serialized a lot more scandals. This year we revealed that apparently the insurance, Ken Oforiatta again, he can't help himself. Clear conflict of interest. Enterprise insurance. They are cashing in. And you can understand the motivation to keep releasing funds for this project on the blind side of Parliament. That has been exposed. We have also revealed that even the fundraisings they say they are doing is all a ruse. They go raise 794,000 in the United States of America, 794,000 Ghana cedis. And they come to Kempinski and blow it all, saying they are doing some symposia. And that is why, as we speak, Sena, because of these diversions, as we speak, the contractor, Ribade Limited, and Ribade is a joint venture of Rizani Di Eka, Babisoti, and Disimoni. The contractor was forced to leave site because the contractor could not see any seriousness. They are hearing all of these fantastic sums around the project. as Dake Ward Mills put it, over $30 million and it's a pit. But Dr. Bishop Dake Ward Mills was even kind. It's actually $58 million. And all we see, I call it a Galamsey site. That's how it looks to me anytime I go and take my drone photos. So on the 14th of March 2022, Ribade Limited wrote this letter to their staff. Notice of termination of appointment. Due to the lack of payment from National Cathedral of Ghana, which has resulted in the project being suspended, Ribade Company Limited are required under the contract to mitigate costs. In compliance with such an obligation under the contract, Ribade Company Limited has no option but to issue this letter of notice, terminating the agreement between Ribade Company Limited and you as per provisions of your employment agreement. This notice of termination takes effect on the 14th of March 2022. You are therefore requested to hand in all properties, that is safety equipment, etc., belonging to the company in your possession to the HR office by close of work of same day. Signed, Grant Ramsey, Project Manager. So as we speak, we have entered the 10th month. Contractors are not on site. And when you read the contract terms, this long period of termination, it comes with penalties. The cost of this project is going to escalate even further. All the work that they have done there, they have to do it again. Financial loss to the state. So when I hear people say, oh, no matter what they do, don't mind them, we'll build a project. We'll build a project. And their propagandists show work that had gone on more than a year ago and create the impression that work is going on now. The Ghanaian people should know that 10 months on, no contractor is on site, no work is going on because of these diversions that we are talking about. This is the confirmation, the diversions. That is not all. We also exposed this year that a shonky, dodgy, shady American called Carrie Summers of the Nehemiah Group has been awarded a contract. We did not go to due process, I must emphasize, because the board of trustees did not approve that contract. Members of the board are up in arms. I can tell you on authority that they did not approve the doling out of 28.2 million Ghana cedis. That is $6 million at the time to Carrie Summers and the Nehemiah Group. And do you know what the money is for? When I put out this expose, the Cathedral Secretary issued a statement and they said that, oh, the man is not going to do fundraising. Even though I know on authority, the insiders I've spoken to, when they met Carrie Summers in a discussion, he said he raises funds for projects of this nature and that he will be paid a commission of the funds he raised. The trustees do not know how. After those discussions, Carrie Summers was handed over $6 million. And now the Cathedral Secretariat is claiming that that money is for coordination. Can you believe that? That we are going to add 2 more projects to the cathedral. A Bible museum and biblical gardens. So this man, Carrie Summers, who has been indicted for antiquity fraud, a very shady character, who we are bringing near the Lost Project. We've forgotten that Jesus the Christ whipped people who were defiling the temple in Jerusalem. We are bringing all these shady characters near this project. Under dubious circumstances. Coordination. What is the meaning of that? Sena, do you know that the whole essence of having a National Cathedral Secretariat is for coordination? Yeah, sure. And I know I'll be, yes.
You have is now extensively in the public domain.
Exactly.
So it's something that we know quite well. I've had a one-on-one with you.
Yeah.
So please wrap up for me, and then I'll go to the other panelists.
I'll make good use of the 5 minutes. Even though this is a matter that I can discuss the whole day, because the various angles of it. Look, never in the history of this country has there been such a scandalous, such a rotten project. So, Carrie Summers is keeping our 28.2 million. And let me serve notice. We are coming after him. He must refund that money to us. We need money to pay bondholders. He must refund our 28.2 million to us. I'll spend the last few minutes on the latest scandal, which I call the mother of all scandals, of all cathedral scandals. So when, after all the lack of transparency, the shadiness, finance minister claiming to be using contingency to fund this project, and we insisted that he should do the right thing, he finally allocated 80 million transparently in the budget, the 2023 budget. So when the Secretariat and the Minister for Tourism appeared before us to seek approval, we said the 339 million released so far, we want to know how you have used it. So they brought us this document on their utilization. And this document revealed that under contractors mobilization, a company called JNS Talent Center Limited has been paid 2.6 million. Naturally, alarm bells will ring. We know that the only contractor is Rebade Limited. So JNS, where are they from? Where are they getting contractors mobilization? We've never heard of this company. So we decided to do some digging. Then we discovered that JNS Talent Center Limited, we secured their incorporation documents. They themselves registered to do skills and talent development. That's what they registered to do, skills and talent development. The only activity they have ever carried out is to open a small creche at Dowenya. Small creche. Kindergarten, you may call it, with a few, young holy souls. That's all they have done. That's all they have done. So how does this company, JNS Talent Center, register to do skills and talent development, having a small creche at Dowenya? How do they come by this National Cathedral project? And they are being paid 2.6 million for mobilization. So it has all the signs of things that you must look deeper. This thing is looking very interesting. Let's look deeper. Let's delve into it. Then we discover that there are 3 directors. Johannes Eshen, or Johannes Eshen, however he pronounces his name, Sheila Eshen, who is his wife, and Kwabna Edu Jemfi, the 3rd director. So we decide to do some profiling to find out who these 3 directors are. How come they are so powerful? No contract, no supporting documents. Suddenly they are rubbing shoulders with Rebade. Look at Rebade. These are international contractors. Rizani the Eka, Babisoti, Disimoni. And JNS suddenly is rubbing shoulders with them, receiving contractors mobilization. So, there must be something very special about these guys. Now, as we dig further, we discover that Johannes Eshen is the branch pastor of Reverend Kusi Boateng. It's getting more interesting. Sheila Eshen, his wife. Their stated capital is 500 cedis. Small business. And yet, they are giving 2.6 million contractors mobilization. But throughout all of what we were doing, we discovered that this 3rd director, by name Kwabna Edu Jemfi, is so elusive, so evasive, a mystery figure. You can't find him anywhere. He's not on the website. All the crèche pictures, he is not there. Nothing about him. So, who is this 3rd director who doesn't have any footprints, not even digital footprints? He's not on Facebook, he's not on none of the social media. We can't find anything about him. So we get more suspicious. If Johannes Eshen is branch pastor, then Kwabna Edu Jemfi must, and Sheila is his wife, don't forget. This is looking like a real, tight cabal. It's a nice family and friends arrangement. So we must be interested in this 3rd guy. So I decided to dig deeper. Holy Moses. What I found blew me off my chair. So we secured the documents that he used to register this company. And to the shock of my life, Kwabna Edu Jemfi, same picture as Reverend Kusi Boateng. Said, what's going on here? Same picture? claims to be born 30th December 1969. I check from the website of Reverend Kusi Boateng's church, and on his church website, he says he's born 7 September 1971. So I said, what's going on here? Let me dig further. So I decided to go secure the National Cathedral Incorporation instrument. And I found out that when they were registering the National Cathedral, Reverend Kusi Boateng came with a different set of IDs, which claim the IDs purport or suggest that he was born 7 September 1969, not 30th December 1971, not 30th December 1969. So I said, let me do some more digging. Do we have any more companies going on like this? You know. Then I discovered that, yeah, Kwabena Edu Jemfi has more companies. More companies registered under Kwabena Edu Jemfi. And then there are a separate set of companies registered under the name Victor Kusi Boateng. So I decided to go and do some more work. Let's check the TINs, the tax identification number. Because if you set up a company, you must have a unique TIN to pay your taxes. So let's find out what's going on there too. Then I discovered that, this is a real dual personality. Well orchestrated, well plotted. He doesn't only have a different name, a different date of birth, he has a different TIN. So Kwabena Edu Jemfi's TIN is P000250268. And then he has different set of companies that he set up. YCV Construction Limited, Caris Consortium Limited, L Dunamis Media Limited, Caris Football Academic FC, On Point One Laundry Limited, Dunamis Chapel Worldwide, Vibrant Generation Chapel. And then you have Victor Kusi Boateng, who has a different tin, a unique tin. And then he also has, and for the avoidance of doubt, let me state that the Victor Kusi Boateng tin is here, and you have his companies, different set of companies. I have all of the documents and compression instruments that he has for those companies. Okay. And he's setting them up around the same time. So, it therefore means that, contrary to what we thought that, he was paying money to his branch pastor, it's worse than that. He was actually paying money to himself. He's sitting on the board, paying money to him. Clear conflict of interest. And that is why we have gone to Shraj to investigate this matter. Clear conflict of interest. But you see, the responses have been very juvenile, very infantile. When I put out there, the strategy has been, don't put out everything you have. Because I know the people I'm dealing with. They will not concede, they will not be honest, they won't show, honesty and sincerity. They will try to always, obfuscate and look for loopholes to beat the system. And they think they are smarter than Ghanaians. They think we are not discerning. So when I first put this conflict of interest with the branch pastor out, what were we told? That, the MPP propagandists, they put out statements that, the cathedral was cash-strapped, and so they needed a loan. And then they produce a letter, a very dubious letter, a copy of which I have here, which they circulated. No reference number, nothing. They said that the director, JNS Talent Center, loan to pay contractors for the National Cathedral of Ghana. This small crash at Dowenya. And how did they know that they have money to bail out a whole priority of priority projects? National Cathedral of Ghana with all these international architects, international companies. So Sena, guess what? Because they didn't know what we had, they said, so they reached out to JNS, You know, nobody knows JNS and all of that. When we then revealed that, oh, we've caught you guys, the director at JNS is the same Reverend Victor Kusibuati. Now, they start to change the narrative. And they say that, oh, you know, so in the board meeting, it was Reverend Kusibuati who said, oh, he can help us. He can bail us out. So you see the shifting goalposts. But you see, what they don't know is that we have far more than we put out. We don't put everything out at the outset. At the time they claim that they were cash-strapped and they needed a bailout, we have all the bank statements. They had more than 6 million cedis sitting in the account. Even this JNS company, we have their bank statements. And the money that they claim was a loan came from government. Since they opened the account, 0 account, nothing in the account, until government paid them 3.5 million Ghana cedis on the 23rd of August. For what contract, we don't know. Now, it is clear to us that this whole cathedral project has become a money laundering scheme. If you look at this, you look at what, you know, Karisames' Nehemiah group has done. The intention really, by some key actors, is not to build. You see how the contractor has abandoned site 10 months. And yet you have all of these monies hovering around the project, being diverted.
Okay.
Now, as I conclude, Sena, yesterday I was compelled to put out even more explosive evidence. We had known all along that Reverend Victor Kusibuati is a dual personality now. Different dates of birth. And you see this ridiculous defense that they started mounting earlier in the week. That, oh, we are Akans, we have native names. Then they go and edit some appeal court decision. They don't read it fully. When you read that decision fully, it says in the modern era that is not allowed. And that case is unrelated to this matter. So they have been exposed. All those who have gone to read the 15-page judgment in that matter have seen that, look, this attempt to obfuscate. In any case, as I asked, so let's grant him native name. Let's say that Kusibuati is not Ghana enough. So Edu Jemfi is the one native. As for Kusibuati is from Afghanistan. We imported that name from Pakistan or from Kosomokaya, as Uncle Kwesi Pratt to say. Let's remember him this morning. He's not here today. We miss him. You know, so it's an imported name. It's not native. It's not indigenous. That's what native means. What they are saying, home name. You know, local name. Kusibuati is a foreign name. Let's grant them that. How about the date of birth? The different date of birth. Do they have a native calendar which makes 30th December 1969 the same as 7th September 1971? I want to see that native calendar. Because you know the Jewish calendar. The Ethiopians who have some calendar. The Indians have some calendar. Maybe the Ashantis who have some secret calendar. Maybe if we go to Menchia, maybe we'll see some native calendar there. Where 30th December 1969 is the same as 7th September 1971. We want to see it. Now, yesterday, I was provoked by Paul Adomochre, Maame Ama's friend, who attempted some defense on Thursday night. And he says that Reverend Kusibuati's father was killed during the revolution. And that after that, he was advised to use Edu Jemfi, which is the mother's name, so that the soldiers won't come after him as well. Can you imagine that? I've never seen, we've been seeing the list. Uncle Kwesi has been publishing lists of people who disappeared, excesses of the revolution. We've never seen any Kusibuati on that list. Suddenly we are told that, well, if it happened, let's extend our condolences. You know, anybody who loses their father, no matter the circumstances, is a sad situation. So, Reverend Kusibuati, Yamauduye. But you see, Paul Adomochre then tells us that, oh, it is the mother's name that he adopted. He didn't know what we have. that what we have put out, I keep telling people, what we put out so is just 10%. You think we went to Shraj with just what we have put out? Anybody who goes to Shraj, who wants such an constitutional body to investigate them, you should know. And we are damn serious about this matter. It's only 10% of documents we put out so far. So when I heard Paul Adomachi say that, oh, he adopted the mother's name, that's why he has Edu Jefi, you people should leave him alone. I said, look at this man, he's brought himself, he's worsening the case of the Reverend Minister. He didn't know what I know. Here I have documents from the GRA. When Edu Jefi went to register his company to get, and he obtained a TIN, and you know you have to obtain a taxpayer identification number. Let me start with Victor Kusibuatin. Victor Kusibuatin went first. He went to the GRA office first on the 13th of August 2013. Okay. When he went that day and he filled the form, he claimed that he had never had a taxpayer identification number. But what is revealing, you know, on the form, you have to let them know who your mother is, mother's information, your mother's maiden last name, the maiden last name. He told the GRA that the maiden last name, this was in 2013, the maiden last name is Atta, A-T-A-A-H, and the first name is Agnes.
Agnes Atta.
Agnes Atta.
Okay.
That's the mother's name. And he obtained a TIN for that, Victor Kusibuati. 3 years after that, he shows up again at the GRA office to obtain a second TIN, a different TIN. And then in filling the form, he lied that he's never obtained a TIN before. Never. It's here, it's ticked, no. Any prior registration for taxpayer certificate, no. It's there. It ticks no. But what is shocking is that this time he has a different mother. He says that the mother's maiden last name is Jemfua, and then the first name is Ya. Nothing even corresponds, nothing tallies. So 3 years earlier, when he went for his TIN, he said the mother's maiden last name is Atta, Agnes Atta. Now it is Ya Jemfua.
Okay.
So Paul Adomachi should come back and tell which of the mothers.
Okay.
And how can you have two biological mothers? So you see, it is clear that what is going on before us is clear, is fraud. I wonder how anybody can get out of the criminal aspect of this. Don't forget that Reverend Victor Kusibuati was appointed to the National Cathedral Board of Trustees as Reverend Victor Kusibuati. And yet, this government, when they said that they want to issue them diplomatic passports to facilitate their work, so they can raise funds, they can travel easily and all of that. I have a copy of the diplomatic passport that they gave him. They gave him a diplomatic passport in the name Kwabna Edu Jemfi. Can you believe that? Diplomatic passport number DX006845. So when the American embassy says that, oh, board of trustees, you want visas, let's help you process, you are going for fundraising. On their website, they see Reverend Kusibuatin, their documents, the appointment letter is Reverend Kusibuatin. But then when he removes his diplomatic passport, it's Kwabna Edu Jemfi. And this is a valid diplomatic passport issued 25th November 2021. Some people have said, oh, you know, maybe he changed his name along the line. But you see, currently, I have showed you incorporation document, companies that he opened as recent as 2021 with the two names. Opening some as Kwabna Edu Jemfi, some are going to do small-scale mining. And as for the Galamsey expose, I'll reveal that later. You know, it's just an exclusive to you people for today. That will be revealed later. It's all part of the things in my basket. You know, then you have him using both names, even as we speak. This Kwabna Edu Jemfi is a valid passport till 24th November 2026. So nobody should come and tell us about he has done a change of name. A change of name. He is using both identities at the same time. I mean, what can be more criminal than this?
Honorable, I'm sure you'd have the opportunity of responding to other issues that will be raised, but thank you very much. Thank you very much for that marathon. I'm impressed. This is Alhaji in Pig Farm, who says the highest form of sin and sacrilegious act anyone can commit is to use the name of God to seal the country, damage the soul of a country like Ghana. The president and these so-called men of God have made Christianity a mockery. I'm not sure these people want to build the house of God, but the house of corruption. Allah save Mother Ghana. That's from Hardy in Pig Farm. There's also this one. That's Martin Kwame said that most Soviet who says it is unfortunate some of our reverend ministers have been lured into the trustee position of a cathedral that is obviously not going to glorify God, since its foundation is beclouded with the attributes of corruption. Pathetic. Then there's this one coming from Nombo in Accra, who says we of the traditional religion in fact own the lands from which all resources of Ghana are derived from. So based on what is going on, we now demand that a fraction of Ghana's revenue be allocated to us for the establishment and construction of a national shrine to project the traditional religious shrine where persons aspiring to hold public office will come and take the oath of office that they will not do things which will interfere with the progress of citizens. That's coming from Nombo in Accra. The Musa Abato is also joining us. God richly bless Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa, because he has been consistently fighting the interests of Ghana. Anybody defending building of National Cathedral is benefiting from numerous corruption surrounding the project. Ghana is currently bankrupt. Domestic bank holders and pensioners cannot get their benefit because the economy is in crisis. But taxpayers' money to fulfill but government has gotten over $58 million of taxpayers' money to fulfill personal pledge. God save Ghana. Thank you. This Tafa in Amra here, who sends this one, says, let me congratulate my comrade, Honorable Sami. He makes not only the North Tongu people proud, but the entire NDC members proud. We are fully behind him, and I knew he's a strong man who can stand against all attempts used by the MPP media houses to question his heart and integrity. And finally, Dennis Yakwete says things that are happening in Ghana today, including the unfolding events at the National Cathedral, especially when the voices of conscience appear to have gone silent when it mattered most, may be difficult to understand by the average person, but there's a way to understand it. Just imagine John Mahama as president today, and even in his dreams try to use state resources to redeem his personal vow with God, let alone the developments here to at least perceive what the narrative would have been. Sadly, as allegations and defenses are mounted in the Cathedral saga, the simple context of a man of God, not just an ordinary man, is deliberately embellished. So sad. Shalom. I will listen to Solo.
Sena. Well. Good morning and good morning to co-panelists. This morning I will not be speaking much on the subject matter for a simple reason, that the proponent of this, he wants to put it expose, has taken the matter to church. And to the extent that he cannot be a judge in his own court, he has seen the need to take it to the appropriate institution so that the other side will also be heard. I mean, that is the principle of natural justice. And what I've heard from him this morning is to draw conclusions from what he has gathered. Let me say that I would rather commend him for what he has sought to do, if only he is not doing it based on any malicious intent. Because we are talking about a personality here, not just a personality, has a potential of affecting other profiles within the National Cathedral structure. And I'm very careful when human integrity or the integrity of elders, or as it were, any human being is involved. And so he has provided data, he has provided information. I would be very glad to know the outcome of what shall you say, except to say there are some few issues that it doesn't sit well with me in his presentation this morning. My brother makes the point that it seems to be an organized crime. I want to know where the organized crime is coming from. Is it a case that Reverend Kusi Boateng together with the rest of the trustees, and by extension, the presidency, sat down to just come and milk this state. I have gone through the board of trustees, the list. You have Apostle Professor Unyina, Charles Pavabaka, Bishop Justice Ofea Kofi, Professor Emmanuel Mate, TK our Pratt Reverend, Archbishop Duncan Williams, Dr. Joyce Aye, Reverend Istudanaba, Reverend Kusibuati himself, and then Dr. Frimpong Manso. I want to be clear in my mind whether his use of organized crime is to the effect that he has.
It's the Kusibuati.
Kusibuatis, yeah. I mean, this morning I am not too much into attacking what he has done. I rather want to look at it from a nationalistic point of view and not to draw conclusions at this stage, because he has also responded, Reverend Kusibuati has responded, that he is very glad that you have taken it to Shraj and that you will go there and give an answer, except that in going forward, I would rather urge my brother to pause at this stage. Because if you know that you were caught on your own, you wouldn't send it to Shraj. And to go to Shraj and then help Shraj in this investigation. I am very, very serious about knowing the end of this matter. You know why? I have told you my position about this National Cathedral several, that I'm not one of those that believe in it. And it's for a reason. And to the extent that we hold the clergy very high. You know, he is a Christian, I'm a Christian, I strongly believe you are a Christian, we all go to church every Sunday. We somehow put our trust in Christ through them, whether you like it or not. That's why you can even go to church for a pastor to pray for you. You know, that ordinarily, you can pray for yourself in your house. But we see them as people that have been elected by God himself to lead in our affairs on earth. This whole issue of National Cathedral, if you also don't take care, will knock heads of various religious bodies together. If you don't take care, it's going to create a huge division in the Christendom world, especially in this country. Immediately the issue of Reverend Kusibuati came out in terms of the conflict of interest and this information that he revealed. All of a sudden, then the resignation letter of Archbishop Doug Howard Mills came out. Journalists must help this country. We have been able to come this far, not because we are that special, but they have played a major role. The Christian world or the Christian community has played a major role in how far we have come. What was the purpose of that? We are pitching him against the rest of the trustees, and you saw the response from the National Cathedral trustees. That you do not expect them to always be taking your view. And that was the first time I saw something that was direct attack. Now why? You are coming from a charismatic background. Some of the members are coming from the Orthodox background, and then some from the Pentecostal background. So all of them have a different way of looking at how a cathedral could be built. And these are not just ordinary men. These are at least people of substance in society. And I do not believe that you can go into a meeting thinking that always and always your views will be accepted over the others. Sometimes you win some, you lose some. It is also important to state that the very Archbishop Doug Howard Mills states in his conclusion that he still believes in the National Cathedral. We may probably have to find out that what is pushing all of them, if all the trustees have said that they believe in this National Cathedral, what is pushing them? What do they know in terms of the spiritual realm that we do not know? Well, probably I'm speaking from the physical realm. And that is why I'm saying I do not think for now we need such thing. If you go to their website, what is the vision behind this whole National Cathedral, to put God in the center of things in this country, and also to extend our gratitude to him for how far he has brought us. On the surface, it looks good, because yes, a lot of countries around us have gone through a lot of difficult moments, more difficult than where we find ourselves. But somehow, somewhat, we are saved. But the question still remains, is it the right time to do such a thing when we have other pressing matters? I believe we could have waited for the future and not to do it now. Conflict of interest, JNS extending monies to the cathedral, and so on and so forth. I believe all these things would have to be dealt with as Shraj. When that is done, then some of us can come out confidently, because probably you do not know the relationship I have with some of them, and also the fact that there are other matters that I will wait so that I can speak directly to the issues. In terms of the names that he exhibited, in terms of consistency, is there? I mean, but for this, I never knew that he was called Kwabena Jemfi, to be frank. I had always known him to be Reverend Kusibuati. So, one of the issues that has been dealt with from, I mean, a highly religious position is that, is it fair or is it right for a pastor to let the whole world know that he is known by this name, whereas his official documents says otherwise? From the Christian perspective, it poses a threat, it poses a serious problem. Because we are supposed to behave as righteous men and women of God. The Jesus Christ that we are following, did he present himself as Jesus in Jerusalem and presented himself as Kwesi in Ghana? That is a question you have to ask. You see, my father was a pastor. So when I'm talking about these things, I am very, very careful. You understand? And it brings to fore. That's why I'm saying that I want to see to it, and I will plead this one. I will plead from the bottom of my heart that you cease fire, you go to Shraj and deal with the issues there, so that this country will settle on it once and for all. You know, that people will then begin to say that is he on a witch hunting mission or something? I don't believe you will gain anything by just destroying families. Absolutely. And I don't want, you see, sometimes I do my argument based on intuitions. I believe he's not doing this not to tarnish the image of anybody. Because if there is anybody, any image to tarnish, the president that you must target for political score. But Reverend Kusibuati, he's not holding any political office. So I believe he is doing his job as a parliamentarian. I am one of those that have always called the parliamentarians to play their watchdog role. Because governance, they have a major stake in it. So if he's playing his role by exposing some of these things, I don't think anybody who wishes this country well must now attack his personality, must do that. It means you people don't even mean what you say. He's not pushing all of us into the high moral grounds that we must be seen to be doing what is right. That's why I'm saying that I hope and pray that the report will be contrary to what he has exposed. If it is, then it is a big blow to the Christian community in this country. Then it means that he is doing this because the letter responding to the conflict of interest issue came from the National Cathedral. He brought his letter separately, and then the National Cathedral also brought theirs. It means the National Cathedral, they wrote that letter by consulting all the trustees. And the trustees agreed that that letter had to go out. So what were they hiding? Were they also in agreement with this conflict of interest situation? If they were in agreement, were they benefiting from this position? And if they were benefiting, these are people leading their churches. We have former Presbyterian moderators, Methodist moderators, Pentecost chairmen, and so on. Was that the way they were dealing with their churches back? That's what I'm saying. It has a huge implication. But this morning, I'll end it here and I'll wait how it will play out. So that's what I will say.
Thank you very much. Well, we'll see how he manages to keep quiet. Was one of the things that he has to constantly respond to people who are now raising new issues. I don't know how.
No, but it's going to for me. People want you to talk in a way that they will get something to nail you. We must promote some of these things. You see, if we don't do some of these things, if we all go and attack him and he gives up, tomorrow you do think when he sees something bad, you have the courage. We must rather encourage him. It is my tax we are talking about. This 2.4 whatever.
2.6.
2.6 plus the 3 point. You know, is that 3.5? Yeah. So the 3.5 is not coming from my tax. GRA is always chasing us. And did I benefit from that? So you don't have to defend some of this on seriousness. We must rather encourage our members of parliament. That is the only way we can build a very solid democratic institution. Either than that, if it is all rubber stamp, they send this back for his vigilance. Would we have gotten all this? We must rather encourage him. I'm only hoping that these documents are authentic. And it will go to Shraj, and the other side will also come and have their say. And all of us will weigh it. Okay. And Shraj must do as honest. They must not, and I repeat, they must not try to shield anybody. Truth must prevail in this circumstance. That's what I'll say.
Thank you. Let me acknowledge that we are live on Shine FM in Akachi. It's on 96.9. Hills FM at Dakulu, 91.7. Nyawasi Radio is in Ketekrachi. 89.7 is their frequency. Stella Radio in Dabala is on 97.1. Diamond FM in Tamale on 93.7. Bewa Radio Yendi 106.5. Radio Kitaon Saboba 95.7. Benya FM is in Elmina on 105.7. Global FM is in Ho 105.1. Volta 1 TV. We're also live on Zebs FM 95.9 in Zebila. There's True FM in Adeso. We're on 92.5. Lamara FM is in Tripoli, and they are on the 89.1 frequency. Boem is on 88.7 FM, is in Jasikan, and Lukusi Radio on 96.1 in Ver Golokwati. This one is from Margot Ansay, who says, "Good morning, Sena. Great show. More grace for Sami on this journey. And Happy New Year to Ama." But I'll go to Nii first before I come to Ama. Nii, I want to listen to you.
Well, let's first for greet our viewers and those listening to us on various platforms. I would also greet Panelist here. I don't know if this is the first or second Alhaji and Alhaji program. We are happy.
This is the third we are doing. Yes.
Okay. Anyway, I think most of us were on the last show as well.
Yeah.
So once again, happy New Year to all of us. To the issue, I would look at it from a different perspective because of where I'm coming from. One, whatever is being done with the cathedral is an investment. That is the bottom line. Someone will talk of God, someone will talk about spiritualism. I don't see all that. investment. These are monies that were pulled out of our nostrils very painfully. These are taxes of the ordinary Ghanaian. A woman will go to the market, sit down for hours, will have to scream and shout to be able to make a little. The government comes and says, you have to pay me this percentage. A collection of all these monies are sent into an investment which for me I consider very mild up to today.
So that we don't proceed too far before we fix this. And there are complaints already coming in to me that your mic is breaking. So let's take a short break for his mic to be fixed. We'll come back so that you continue.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has...
In previous seasons, he saw this.
You are not allowed to hawk or preach in commercial vehicles.
The perception in Ghana is abortion is illegal, and we don't follow up with the exceptions.
The existence of the customary marriage is no prerequisite
for the ordinance marriage. Yes. And now, are you ready for this?
Some people express the fact that they don't go on leave with pride.
Accumulated leave, like they term it, is illegal.
Because in Ghana we don't have enough lawyers, and the accused can apply for bail where he has no lawyer.
Knowing full well that you have an STI and you do not reveal that to the person and you have the sexual contact with them.
He has labored.
Thank you for staying with us. I think we can go back to Nii to listen to him on his views on the very first topic. You're talking about the fact that you see it as an investment.
Yes. And I will continue from where I am by saying that our investment must be productive. No matter where you as a government decide to put the people's money, you must be able to sell to us a good investment. As we speak today, not our representatives in Parliament have been given any form of document that shows how productive that investment would be in the future. That put aside, with the construction stage, and therefore you would need people to manage this construction. Transparency is required. It has always have to be that someone has taken matters up before you get others with this category. This is a category. I said to the biblical, spiritual God side. Let's remain in the investment, in the businessman phase. No, I'm not. I'm a staunch Christian.
Fantastic.
If I decide to preach, you will see how useless this cathedral is.
Oh, really?
But let us not go there. You know, this amount that has been put in there already can pay bondholders in terms of the 137 billion, can pay them 5% in 2023 that they are supposed to earn nothing. That is how much we have put in this cathedral. Yet nobody has told me, after the building of the cathedral, how it's going to be put to use for the country that spent so much to actually recoup its money. We have not been told that. Those managing the cathedral, now it is clear that most of them, or some of them, have questionable, should I say, character, for that matter. Because you see, what has happened now and what I'm hearing now exposes our tax system big time. And I am surprised that the GRA has not moved in. Because the tin form is a declaration. It is like you have gone to court, put your hand on the Bible and sworn that, look, I'm going to speak truth. And you are caught lying. What happens to you? Again, it tells you that people can evade tax in this country very easily if they can, under our tax system, have two personalities. And the system is not even able to determine that they are related parties. All Western tax systems are able to even monitor business you do with your children, with your wife, anybody who is family. The only way they are able to do that is based on the information we provide. What is your mother's name? And the reason they use mothers is because it is the women that give birth. So if they do that with different husbands, right, the mother's name will not change. And that is the significance of why the mother's name are asked for and not the father's name. In fact, you can have various fathers, but you can never have a different mother. Until now, we are getting to know that somebody is intelligent enough to have different mothers. This is fraud. This is not what you are describing. It is not about, well, somebody who is trying, probably something happening along. This is fraud. If this is authenticated, it must not end with charge. This is fraud. Look, if it is a common Ghanaian like me, who should have done this and be caught, I would not be sitting here, I'm sure. And this comes to where someone will adduce organized crime. I know reverend ministers, especially in the Octopus, are very smart people, very learned. Some of them, you'll be surprised the number of languages they speak and all that. In terms of the charismatic, it is only few of them who are able to learn to that extent. But I would study this man further, because this is not something that most people, even in the field of taxation, are aware of some of these things. And for somebody to do this is either very smart, somebody who has perpetrated such things before, probably in a different jurisdiction, or he has certain advisors who knows how to go around our tax system so well. Again, and I will not speak much on this, I would end with this. We should highly commend Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa. One of the first things a trained auditor is asked to learn is what we call professional skepticism. have a mind that will be questioning almost everything, that has any resemblance with the conduct of errors, fraud, and misstatement. What has come out is not just about errors, it's not just about fraud, but we have had misstatement as well. In fact, in audit, at this point, this is where you have to do substantial testing. And the evidence is so weighty that at this point, you leave other areas and you concentrate on what you have found. Because you are finding substantial risk in this. The risk is just too much. That the very people who are supposed to manage the funds to build this cathedral seems not to have the credibility it takes to do that. First and foremost, if we are in any serious country, this is where you stop or you cut the investment. You don't put anything in there any longer. If this is not organized crime, if this is not thievery, if this is not pure stealing, this is where authorities have to say enough is enough. Cut it. Let's put some sanity into the system before we proceed. I will end.
Thank you. Thank you. If the authority themselves, if the president himself is allocating land and allocating the architects, the moral right issue then still rises. Rukai Ablakwa says, Solo has said it all, and I just hope that all his MPP members will think like him and mother Ghana too. There's Vivian Opon says, the way and manner Ghanaians are upset. Do you guys think we are playing with you? Collins Deladem is also joining. Says, I'm extremely glad to see Mr. Solomon speaking the truth to power today. He is my hero on today's show. Honorable Samuel, your generation is proud of you. There's a Princess Fusua who says, Mr. Solo, not all our men and women of God are called by God. Some are self-called. You don't know why. If you don't know why, okay, I think I didn't read that well. Sapi Agbo says, the current job of MPP communicators is very difficult. How can anybody with a shred of integrity continue to defend the indefensible against their conscience? Haruna Jibul is watching us live. Says, good morning to everybody, especially Solomon Owusu, who he said is doing a brilliant and fantastic job. We are proud of him. Robert Tunkum says, this is wisdom. Honorable Samuel, God bless you. There is Simon Joe Azameti, who is joining us. He's asking of, he's asking of somebody. The Labdala says, the reason is that Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's Ghana has been reduced to a doormat. Everyone comes in and out, wiping their feet on really, really sad. Why is okay? Saeed Adam is still asking for the same person. There's Sapiabu again who says, is it any wonder that this criminal court? Okay, I'll be very careful in the way you tag him, because is it any wonder that Reverend Kusibuat is allegedly the spiritual father or advisor of Vice President Baumia, best of the same feather? Suleiman Abdul Rahim says, are we serious as a nation? When all nations in the world are battling to solve the current economic crisis, we are busily over here arguing over building of a cathedral. God save us. Kofi Lams says, Solomon is adding more fuel. In Jerusalem, a man was called Jesus. In Galilee, the same man was to say. Okay. Vivian Opon says, it's not Reverend Oton. This is not how Reverend behaves. Okay, so there are several other messages that I have to go through, but I have go to Amma. Hi.
Well, let me start by saying a happy new year to Margot and to wish, congratulate her. I haven't had opportunity to speak to her after, the whole campaign. I think that she was awesome, so just to say happy new year to you too, Margot, and see you soon. And also to add my voice to everybody that's congratulating the Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, son of man. In fact, we have to add Anas Anas to his name, and congratulate him for a yeoman's job that he has done and that we hope he will continue to do. There's a research unit to parliamentarians, correct me, parliamentarians are supposed to have research teams. Yes, I think that this is the first time that I understand that. This is the first time that, I appreciate the reason why a parliamentarian should have a whole research team. And to that extent, I like to really, 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 really congratulate, Honorable here, because this is how it should be, right? It's amazing that we don't experience this. We don't experience the work of Parliament like this. It has been restricted to only what happens on the floor, and now he is showing us that it's possible for a parliamentarian to utilize, and do everything else on paper that he's supposed to do. I mean, I'm really, really, really proud of him. I very, very proud of him. And I would encourage him to not listen to Solomon to pause. I would encourage him to continue. We don't need him to pause. No. He has to continue.
No, I think Solomon's point is that on responding to issues.
No.
Yes.
There's more. I mean, who knows what else there is? This is in charge. Let this one be in charge. There's more. There are other people. I mean, there's so much more. So please don't pause. Don't pause. Keep going. Completely keep going. Till we have some finality. Now, I'd also like to add my voice to what Sir has been saying here so far, and it has to do with this thing about criminality, which is what this is. There's an attempt to sort of downplay this into, accounts can have multiple names, and it's just a man that has decided. No, this is not what is happening here. This is a crime. This is a man with two distinct personalities. He's a whole other person. You have a human being that is a whole other human being. Why is there a need for anybody to do that? It can only be fraud. It can only be fraud. There's no other reason why I would want to have another whole different distinct personality with a different number, a different mother. What am I doing? This is fraud. Pure and simple. But it's shocking that, and you see, we can have a conversation around, is government aware? We can't have that conversation anymore. If a diplomatic passport has been issued to the other person, so you understand what I'm saying? That conversation would still be on the table if, so governments could come out, perhaps before could have come out and said that we didn't know. We thought we were dealing with Reverend, the names even confused me at this point, with one person, and it turns out that he had, and we didn't know. Governments could have made that argument in the past. But to the extent that a diplomatic passport has been issued to the other person, intended for this other person, government is in the no. This is an organized crime. Let's call it what it is. It's an organized crime. Government at this point cannot say that they didn't know. They knew. They knew that we're dealing with two different people using the same identity. They knew that the secretary of the cathedral is this person. He also goes by the name of that other person. So when we are giving a diplomatic passport to the secretary of the cathedral, if we give it to this other person, it's the same person. This is an organized crime. Organized crime. Simple. There's no question at this point as to what is going on. Now, allow me to borrow from Fiawuno and say that this is a cathedral of doom. This cathedral is a cathedral of doom. Whichever way you look at it, we have spoken enough about how unnecessary this cathedral is. It's a complete waste. Sena, only last week I was in La, looking at a whole functioning hospital, that serves Teshi, Owusu, Nungwa, and all the other environs around there, that has been demolished, razed to the ground. Now we say we have the La Park, we don't have the La Hospital. Razed to the ground. The people who use the hospital, look at all these people who use it. Over 3,000 people, Ghanaians who use this hospital, who don't have access to that hospital. Sena, look at all the people whose livelihood depended on the hospital, people who sell hot water by the side of the road, the people who sell food. But in fact, a whole lab, there was a private lab facility just across the hospital. So that whole laboratory has been closed down. The people who had provision shops around the hospital. So let's put healthcare on a bench. Let's also look at just the livelihood of people, incomes, people who have fashioned their whole existence on that hospital. We demolished it to the ground, just demolished it. Until now that we speak, there's nothing happening there. We sent trucks there, we sent sand there, we sent, things there. We cut sword for the hospital, and we did nothing till now. Almost as if we are playing a charade with the people. It looks as if something is happening. Then in the thick of night, we go and move the sand from there, we move the gravel from there, we move everything from there. And I wonder, what's this penchant for demolitions? Why is this government so fascinated with demolition things? Why? I don't, and I keep asking myself, why? There seems to be a love for demolishing things, and I don't understand it. And I've been asking the question as to why. Perhaps the Honorable Ablakwa said he can help us. No. He's been in government. Maybe, I don't know. There has to be a reason why those governments love to demolish things. There has to be a reason.
The reason why the hospital was demolished.
What was the reason?
I mean, there was a proper survey on the property that identified that if they had not pulled it down, it was going to break.
Even the newer constructions?
No, the old one.
Like the mortuary.
In 2015, asked the current MP there. The Ghana Health Service conducted a survey on the entire structure and came out that they needed to demolish it. Yes, the report is there. And that was how, what would the government benefit?
I'm hearing this for the first time.
Yeah, that was the main reason.
They didn't present that report.
That is what they were supposed
to
do. There was a comprehensive report conducted on that hospital by.
Have you seen a copy yourself?
Yes, I've seen a copy of it.
So
they have to come and explain. It is not my job. It is the job of the Ministry of Health to explain to the people why the hospital needed to be pulled down.
No, there was a meeting that was called. They called a sort of a stakeholder meeting with the chiefs, the people, and they explained that, of course, it's an old structure. It's been in existence for a very, very long time, which is the reason why we do things called renovations.
But now I was going to bring that there were a lot of cracks. It would have actually pulled down people.
No problem. But look at what we did with the Ridge Hospital. We couldn't have done something like that with
Money
this
matters.
one. Money matters. There we go. Exactly. Money matters. Bottom line, money matters, isn't it?
Yes.
It comes back to that. Money matters. Because really, there were newer structures on the compound. There was a new mortuary. Our late President John Evans Mills had done some new constructions on the, in the space. And those ones could have been left the way they were to serve the people, while we concentrated on the story building, like you say, that posed some form of danger. So it's shocking. This for me would have been a no-brainer. It's shocking that we demolished everything on that compound, raised it to the ground, and for 3 years, there's nothing happening there. So really, what we want the people to do, over 3,000 people who do not have access to healthcare today, what we want them to do. Meanwhile, we insist on building a cathedral. Solomon, I mean, when you think about it, it's just, I don't want to belabor the point. And for me, when it comes to the cathedral, I've always maintained that the voice of people is the voice of God. You can't convince me that this is about God. When everybody is crying out to you that, come on, we don't want it. Basically a cathedral of doom. So for me, it's just mute. Only yesterday I was speaking to the Honorable Alhaji, and he said to me that, Ama, his personal opinion on this is that we can toy with everything, but we shouldn't toy with God. You can play around. You can use the construction of a library to perpetuate fraud. You can use roads to do double personalities and things like that. But you shouldn't use God as a means of enriching yourself. And I hope that such sentiment reaches the ears that it needs to. Because what are we doing?
Except that but for this, establish that people are enriching themselves. That is why I was advising. It will be better for Shraj to come. It is not
established that people are enriching themselves, but it is established that people intend to cause fraud.
So that is why when we get
established that people intend to cause fraud. So, there's no reason why you need to have two distinct personalities, two distinct things, lie about who your mother is. There's no reason why. All right. If you don't intend to cause fraud. So yes, I agree with you. There's no proof as we sit here that somebody has stolen money, but there's proof that somebody intends to cause fraud. For me, there's no doubt in my mind about that. And that's a problem. And it is fraud not by an individual. It is fraud by the government of Ghana against the people of Ghana. That is what it is. To the extent that they know that we made him a secretary of the cathedral. That's how high up he is. We made him the secretary of the cathedral. You know who a secretary is? And you know that your secretary has two distinct personalities and you allow it to go. In fact, you help him by giving him a diplomatic passport to the one that is not your secretary. What are we doing in this country? It's unbelievable. And very soon you're going to come to a conversation around, debt restructuring. When as a people, we don't seem to understand where we are. We are building a cathedral. We are engaged in religious luxury. Religious luxury. And I hate to sound like somebody who doesn't have the fear of God in me. It's a very dangerous thing to say. But at this point, for me, religiosity is not fundamental. I'm sorry. At this point, when we can't bread and butter, when we are dealing with the basics, it becomes a luxury. It becomes a luxury. This thing about we need to build a house for God, it's a luxury for the people of Ghana. We are not there. We weren't there 10 years ago when we were buying fuel. How can we be there today? So, I mean, shocking. I'm excited that, the Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa has taken this upon himself. I'm excited that somebody is bold enough to take on this issue and to follow through with it to this point. I hope that as Ghanaians, all of us will understand the import of what he is doing and the need for all of us to speak with one voice. It's always important. For me, solidarity is everything. He shouldn't be a lone ranger fighting this government by himself. Because at the end of the day, it's about all of us and what our taxes are used for. And the fact that right now, our taxes are not something that should be used for luxury. It's so crucial. So for me, let us all speak with one voice. Let us all keep demanding that the right thing is done by us. And let's see a logical conclusion of this. I keep asking, right now, is it too late? The point at which we are, with all the demolitions that have gone on, with the Galamsey pit that has been dug, would it be too late for Akufo-Addo to finally say that, okay, I made a mistake. Let's pause on this. It's a question I keep asking. And I think that this is where perhaps our voice will be the determining factor. It's for us as Ghanaians to speak with one voice and say that, listen, this cathedral of doom has doomed us enough. We don't want it. We don't want it. And just do away with it. Thank you, Sena.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think on the matter of I recall that vividly. Solo is right. There were issues raised with the integrity, structural integrity of some of the structures. I think about two, the main structures.
When you know construction very well, you can't be sure that if you allow one to stand and it collapses, it will not affect people in the under. So the reasonable thing to have done was to pull out all the structures on the land. Except that we do not have the money.
No, but not all the structures had problems. Amma is right about that. Secondly, we've moved past that. Your government went there, demolished the building, actually unveiled the design for the new building.
The design is
Give a timeline within which to start and complete the project. There's nothing happening. And I think that's the question that the government needs to be answering when it comes to the land.
No government will be happy pulling down a hospital infrastructure and not to construct it. We are facing real challenge. I mean, what do we gain as a government?
The government has not spoken to that. In the first time I'm hearing you speak to matter of financial challenge. The first time I've heard.
No, but that is why the Minister of Health has to come out. I mean, some of these things, he is there. He's responsible for the health ministry. If things are not going the way you should, you address the nation and tell the challenges. You don't keep it yourself for me to come and sit here and tell the world.
Well, thank you. Just a few messages. This is Mano James. There's Samolama who says, are these same MPP elements who used to describe ex-President Mahama and the NDC as corrupt and incompetent? We thank God for exposing the hypocrisy of the MPP. He says, if there's anything like causing financial loss to the state, then I think this MPP government must escape, being punished for demolition of state and private properties to make way for building a needless cathedral. But cancer is also joining us. This should be the topic of discussion on all TV stations. I really love Honorable Sami. I really love Honorable Sami's for his appetite for transparency. I am trying to add something to yours. I see a young president upcoming. God bless him for Ghana youth. Kudos to Pan-African TV for this morning program. It says this is what happens when dishonesty, lawlessness, recklessness, arrogance, lies, among other negative conducts become the stock in trade of any ungodly leadership. Kobla. Says Solomon, what kind of double standard position are you taking? Haven't you on this platform condemned the ex-president and the minority caucus before? You are only picking and choosing. The truth is just one. By their fruit ye shall know them. I think he commended Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa. Says, please tell Honorable Ablakwa, I am very proud of him. He's truly a product of PRC. The Bible says, by their fruit ye shall know them. Those who don't read the Bible for themselves will always be fooled. Abladi Kuma is also joining us. People are suffering, and what President Kufuor could do to save them is to build a cathedral. Who told President Kufuor and his MPP government that God needs a house from mankind? Even if God needed a house from mankind, certainly not a corrupt figure like President Kufuor that's coming from Ablade. Is it Hove Kafui, says Sena. Okay. He's asking for something else. Samuel Lovelanka Kelly says, I pray and hope we get more of Honorable Samuel in our political space in Ghana. So Ghana will be a safe haven for Ghanaians. And tell him I owe him one fat goat. The work he has done for Mother Ghana, we can't pay him enough. He sent that. Samuel Lovelanke Kelly, I'll take that fat goat on his behalf. I am at Radio Gold Monday to Friday. Bring the goat, I'll send it to him. Dino Gaucho is joining us from Tamale. Says, member of number 9, says, I voted for MPP, but I regret the day I made up my mind to vote for them. MPP is heartless party and careless about the good people of Ghana. MPP have never done anything for the interests of Ghanaians. There's Dayam Yakubu Yumza, who is also sending one, says, good morning to all of us from the North Tamale to my regards to your panelists, most especially Maame Ama Pratt and the legendary Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. May Allah bless you and guide you. We, the good people of Ghana and NDC at large, are proud of you. Those are some messages that I've been going through. And one of the things I appreciate about what Honorable is doing is that when you are a journalist, you call and demand for this information, they can just brush you aside. Some people can just look in your face, oh, people, I won't talk to you. But when you're a member of parliament and you make this request, they have no other choice but to honor this request. So thank you for using that power and that mandate to get this kind of information and put it out. Then we can also use it as basis to do some work. It's very, very difficult getting these things. If you go in an official capacity, you have to do a lot of investigative journalism. Not all of us are in that space. So it's wonderful to know that you are able to use this power and get this information and put out. I will start with you again on the matter of the bondholders, because like I said, I saw a picture, a very nice picture. You were in the background smiling, and I realized you were there when the petition was presented to you. I know you've heard subsequently what is happening in terms of the domestic debt exchange and the issues being raised by the individual bondholders. We are hearing stories that are very sad. Pensioners who are 77 and you are offering them something that says that 2035, the man is asking, do you know how long I have to live? I won't even survive till then. I want to start from you and perhaps what Parliament can do about the situation. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll plead with you to give me a minute to go back to the cathedral matter. Just a minute, and then I would discuss the domestic debt exchange program. First, I would like to commend Solo for his very objective, patriotic, and Christian submission. I must place on record that throughout the week, I have met a number of MPP communicators, and he is the only one who has approached this matter from a very, very objective, Christian-like and patriotic point of view, and I want to commend him highly for his approach. You see, as a country, we must promote this culture. If I belong to a group, it's not everything that members of the group do, or supposed members of the group, or allies of the group do, that I must support. I mean, we are not all saints. We are bound to make mistakes. There are bound to be challenges. Your ability, even as a member of a group, to reprimand your own, or to even say, look, this conduct so far, I don't think I can support it, is commendable, and it will lead to improved personal integrity. And ultimately, it's a society that benefits. I recall when we were in power and Woyome happened, Professor Mills called us and told us that, look, I had instructed that that payment should not be made. So I don't expect communicators to support this. I was chairing our communication strategy group at the time as Deputy Minister for Information. I told everybody that this is the procedure. The President did not authorize payment. We are not going to defend it. So I never defended that. So we have to encourage these things. But these days, what do we see? You know, it's like we've become zombies. We are blinded. Partisanship takes away our conscience. It takes away our morality, our principles. And if it is somebody associated to our leader or our party, then everything the person does, the person becomes a saint suddenly because he holds our party card. And so everything they do, even if they commit murder, we must defend it. So I salute Solo, and I think that we should reflect on positive attitudes that will transform our country. It's not everything that is worth defending when the facts are so clear, the evidence is overwhelming. So clear. Look at the statement that he issued. He could not, these are straightforward matters. You could have said that I am not Kwabena Edu Jemfi. I don't have 2 things. But he didn't. He hid under legal threats and saying, oh, okay, let's go and meet at church. After church, I will deal with you properly. You know, nobody will be intimidated by those legal threats. So that should be the approach. I want to conclude on this matter by urging the President, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, to immediately dissolve that board of trustees. It should be dissolved without delay. And forensic audit must be carried out. And he himself and the Vice President must distance themselves from this man of God, supposed man of God. Look, I asked earlier, when I revealed this on the 16th of January at 5 a.m., in my statement, I said that he must resign immediately. He put out a statement saying that, oh, he is going to continue to offer his service. Can you believe that? So clearly this is somebody who doesn't even have his moral compass right. So what you do to such people is that you sack them. You dissolve the board of trustees. And he must be arrested immediately. Because as our colleague said here, if he was any of us engaging in such conduct, we won't be here talking to Ghanaians this morning. We would not. So an immediate dissolution of the board, the president must distance himself. You remember in America, Obama's priest, Pastor Wright, I recall, when it emerged that he had been making very divisive, inflammatory sermons and speeches, even saying that the Americans are responsible for HIV, they want to wipe away the black race. You know, September 11 was an inside job and all of that. And the Americans were outraged. President Obama issued a statement saying he will not attend that church again. And this is a pastor who had blessed their wedding. He had christened all their children. But that is leadership of high standards, high moral integrity. So this man thinks he has a cover. You see his videos, even on his website, he says he is advisor of presidents, including the Ghanaian president. I don't know what he's advising him on, you know, and he's flaunting it all over the place. The president, the vice president, they must distance themselves and they must dissolve that board immediately and pave way for a full-blown forensic audit. We insist. Let me also confirm that I have initiated processes in Parliament. When the House resumes, the foreign minister will have to explain to the Ghanaian people how somebody appointed to the Board of Trustees as Reverend Victor Kusi-Boateng is issued a passport, a diplomatic passport, not even an ordinary passport or a service passport, diplomatic passport. What was the due diligence done? Are they complicit? Is there a conspiracy? Is this an organized crime? What's going on? And how many of this is happening all around the place? How many more people are possessing diplomatic passports? How many people? So, on that front, there will be a full-scale inquiry in Parliament on that matter, and I just want to assure the Ghanaian people. Let me also conclude by saying that it will be in the best interest of Kwabena Edu-Gyamfi, Victor Kusi-Boateng, and the president to start taking action now. Because what is coming is not good at all. The other discoveries, which we are yet to put out, is not going to help them. So this business, or it is business as usual, will continue to serve, and hoping that time will, you know, just let this matter blow away. It will not help. So I do hope that immediate action will be taken to save them and save all of us from what is coming. Now, on the domestic debt exchange program, you are right that we received a petition from the Association of Domestic Bondholders. To be honest with you, I didn't know that so many people are affected. They told us in that meeting there are 1.3 million direct bondholders. 1.3 million. So you can imagine all their dependents. If every bondholder, you know, has an average family of 5, do the multiplier effect. So this matter is not one that should be taken lightly at all. People's livelihoods, people's savings. And you see, as a country, we have been encouraging a savings culture for many, many years. If our compatriots have put confidence in the system, they were told that, oh, when it comes to these government instruments, these bonds, these treasury bills, they are the safest. Virtually no risk. You are guaranteed your returns. Don't go and fall for Ponzi schemes. Don't go and be numb-one and all of that. Invest in safe instruments. And they have listened. Put their savings there. all these decades, some of them 20 years, 30 years. Look at the video that went viral of the retired police officer who served this country 24 years, received his gratuity, lump sum, and invested it at GCB. And in the video, he says he can't have access to it. And some of the years that we are hearing, 18 years, 23 years, all kinds of unbelievable periods that government thinks they can repay. And we know that we are where we are, not by the doing of these people. These bondholders, what have they done? They have committed no crime, no fault of theirs. They were rather responsible citizens who don't want to become liability to the state, to society. They could have decided that anytime they get their salaries, they will just squander all of it. And then in their old age, they become a liability. We are the same people who point fingers at them that they've been irresponsible. They can't take care of their children, their grandchildren. They can't take care of their bills, of their medication. Why are we doing this? Meanwhile, all the things that have brought us here, Sena, are things that we knew that if we didn't put a stop to it, why did we have to borrow the way we borrowed? Look, since independence, the overall public debt since independence, from Nkrumah at all our presidents of the Fourth Republic to when President Mahama was leaving office in 2016, was 122 billion. Public debt since Nkrumah's era, 122 billion. By 2020, it had doubled. Just in 4 years. Now, as we speak, public debt is in excess of 500 billion. Why? Why did we go on this borrowing spree? And then to make matters worse, Sena, we can't even point to what these borrowings were used for. They were not invested in the productive sector, where we can say that, oh, at least today now we can get some returns. We borrowed to pay salaries. We borrowed for a large size of government. You remember in 2017, Ghanaians said, oh, we are a small country. We don't need more than 100 ministers. The president defended it. Said as for him, he believes that big governments deliver big results. He's in a hurry. He wants big results. So he's putting together a big team. Where are the big results? Where are we? Look at the presidential staffers that we have in this country. That is another pet subject you know Sena have been pursuing for years. Why is it that this small country, if you put the political and then the public service list together, we are in the thousands at the Office of Government Machinery? Why? And when you look at the 2021 list, page 15 of that list, some of the positions there, it will freak you out. We are paying somebody as we speak now for diaspora church relations. Can you believe that? Diaspora church relations. Somebody's duty, who we are paying, and all these people are classified under Article 71. Diaspora church relations, churches in the diaspora. Somebody is going to relate to them at our expense. Have the churches in the diaspora invited us? Have they told us that they need some support from the Ghanaian government to do what? Why should we appoint a diaspora church relations officer? Why? You go through that list, still page 15, that same list. You have church relations manager. He is in Ghana. His colleague is traveling jetting all over the place. He's in the diaspora. Then in Ghana, we have a church relations manager. Christian Council is not enough. Catholic Bishop Conference, they are not well organized. So we need to appoint somebody to be a church relations manager. Are we soon going to have a mosque relations manager? Traditional shrines relations manager? We are going to have that? Why? Why do we do this to ourselves? You go through the list. There's a finance manager there. This country has an obnoxious, disastrous finance minister we are trying to get rid of. Then we have a finance manager on the list. We are paying him. People who are doing communications, there are about 17 of them. Technical communication advisor, communication specialist, all of them. Kweku Sechiado is there. Oboshi Saikofi is there. All of them. Then there's Eugene Ahin. Eugene Ahin has 4 deputies. Many people don't know that. Why? Why do we do this to ourselves? COVID came. We have a Ministry of Health. We have a Ghana Health Service. You had already set up a task force, which you said the president was chairing. Only for us to discover, when we received this list, that you had established a COVID-19 secretariat at the presidency. Another layer of bureaucracy. And the Auditor General tells us in the 2021 report that COVID-19 secretariat spent 12.6 million Ghana cedis in 1 year. 12.6 million Ghana cedis. Why? Did we need a COVID-19 secretariat? Look at the people we have at the Ghana Health Service. Their levels of competence. Top technocrats. Celebrated across the world. Did we need a COVID-19 secretariat at the presidency? To do what? This country, we have monitoring and evaluation in every ministry, department, agency. Why did you set up a monitoring and evaluation secretariat at the presidency? To do what? Then we have a Special Development Initiative Secretariat. When we all thought that, they had abolished the ministry, we no longer have a Special Development Ministry. Unknown to us, they went to set up a secretariat. Napaga Tia is in charge over there with a whole host of people. Why do we do this? Why do we engage in such profligacy, in such wastage?
No, but we have to.
When we thought that, the president has at least tried to listen, so we don't have deputy regional ministers. Go through the list, the presidential list, the presidential staffers list. Apparently, they've appointed a special assistant to all the regional ministers. And really, it brings us back to the same place. They are deputy ministers. So we are where we are because of the wastage, the profligacy. You've read the Auditor General's report. Between 2017 and 2021, this country lost 50 billion, according to the Auditor General. I don't want to repeat the wastage with presidential chartered travels. So we are where we are because of the mismanagement of this economy. And we take it out on innocent Ghanaians who have done nothing. When I even hear this, burden share, let's share the burden, it really is infuriating. You go create a mess, plunge us into this crisis, and you say, let's share the burden. What was my share in that? Was I at the presidency with you when you were creating these secretariats? Was I getting some of the booty? When the diaspora church relations manager was flying all over the world, meeting churches in there, there was probably some prophecy that out of Ghana will be a Paul who must go and visit the churches in Siberia, the churches in Thessalonica and in Galatia and all of that. So out of Akufo-Addo's presidency. must be another pour.
So interesting.
At our expense. Why? Why do we do this? Let me conclude by reminding the finance minister that the budget he presented to us in Parliament, page 17, paragraph 278, this is what he told us. Mr. Speaker, the details of the debt operation program will be announced soon to the public and the investor community after the necessary engagements with all relevant stakeholders. So in this budget, we were not told the nature of the debt exchange program. The finance minister told us that he was going to engage the stakeholders. Only for us to see in the news that he's announced a deadline and they are foisting on the bondholders some agreements that they must sign. They claim it's voluntary really, but it's compulsory. I mean, what's the meaning of that? He must come back to Parliament after these consultations, as we approve, and brief us. Let's have a debate. And let's know exactly what this domestic exchange program is about. And our position as a party is that domestic bondholders must be exempted. They must be exempted. Look, the risk. And I agree with Oseche Mensabos, the majority leader, who said that if this is implemented, the middle class will be wiped out. The entire middle class will be wiped out. So that is the risk that we face. So, paragraph 278, you said you are going to engage. Stop this unilateral approach. I'm glad that now they set up a technical committee and the engagements have now begun. I want to commend all the associations, Senor Hosi, Gehad Mensa and others, lawyer Larry Jagger and all of them who are leading the charge. They've done very well. The organized labor group too must be commended. They did well to fight for pensioners. Yeah. Pensioners were also going to be included. This should send a clear message to the government that Ghanaians are waking up to their rights. They are not going to sit quiet and allow you to just suffocate them to death, because really this is what it is. Okay. You see the tragic stories. There's this 77-year-old man who says he is going to just spend the rest of his life at the bank, at the banking hall. He needs his money. See what happened yesterday to those who bought the cocoa bond. Yeah. Some of them, they even received alert that it had matured. It's hit their account, only for a government decision that it should be reversed. I mean, what's going on? Why? Why should Ghanaians be treated this way? Already, look at where inflation is at an all-time high, around 54%. Everything is going up. Utility bills, cost of living crisis, and the little savings that people should depend on. See what you are doing with it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. This one is from Ezinako Jojo. Says, kindly tell Honorable Ablakwa that some of the presidential staffers are on the payrolls of some of the state enterprises and public institutions. They should collect a list of all staffs of the state enterprises and match them with the list of the presidential staffers. They will be surprised to see what is going on. Solo.
Sena, are we not tired with our economy and this brouhaha? You see, the truth of the matter is that anytime I come here as a businessman, I do business plus politics. I laugh at some of the things that are said. We are not tackling the real issues of the country. So, granted, the individual bondholders are paid. Then, what next? If we don't do what is right, Sena, we will still be where we are. Government took money from individual bondholders with a view to invest in. Is that not the case? Yeah. Government went in, supposedly invested, and government is telling us that it could not recoup the invested monies, so you can't get your share. And that is what is affecting the private sector. This is a country where doing business is so difficult, and I'm very happy now it's hitting government itself. So that as a country, we will sit down and do what is right. There are several things that my brother spoke of that I believe we need to take into consideration, the various acts that we have passed. If you look at, for instance, the Presidential Office Act, of 1993, Act 463. It gives the president an unfettered power to be appointing people to be serving as staffers. For me, I believe we need to look at it critically, so that we do not leave to the discretion of whoever is elected as the president to be appointing people that we feel is more than necessary. As if you give me the power to do whatever I want, how can you then turn around and come and blame me that I am not supposed to be doing this? What is the measure? How many people am I supposed to be appointed to the presidency? So we are creating our own difficulty, and we must go back to understand why the parliament of the 1993 or so decided to give us the act. What was the rationale behind it? Why did they not put a ceiling? Just like what we have with our Supreme Court, that we do not have a ceiling. So if any president comes and says he wants to appoint more than 1,000 people, on what basis would you say he's wrong? There must be something is wrong only when there is a law to that regard. Domestic debt exchange program. I believe the government must go back into the budget and see where we can forgo to save the interest of these individual bondholders. And I'm very happy people are taking interest, because you see, if you know the people that invest in bonds, you understand why the noise levels are very high. Parliamentarians are highly affected. The judiciary highly affected. Yeah. I know a lot of parliamentarian who takes his gratia and go and buy bonds, and then be using the interest to be sorting out a lot of pressures that come from the constituency. So I can understand. The churches, they take their monies and go and invest in bonds. So you see statements flying left, right, center from there. But beyond that, it also has a very serious effect on the economy. I do not even want them to attack the institutional bonds, because private sectors depend on these banks for survival. These banks take these monies, these bonds and so on and so forth from these individuals and institutions to be giving us the very facilities that we want. In the budget, government has projected to rake in some amount of tax revenue. You can only make that money from we as businessmen and so on when we are in good business. If we are not doing well, how will government be able to achieve its targets? And so it's a very crucial time. For me, we must look beyond all these things and look at how best as a country we can devise the right strategies to be surviving. Is it not interesting? Like Ghana is having about 106 of debt to GDP ratio. Is that not the case? UK is also having the same 106 to debt ratio. America is having 123. Yet we are classified as a junk country. They are not. America has a debt profile of 31 trillion against its total asset of close to 4.9 trillion. Let's get it straight. So if you are owing close to 31 trillion and the total asset of your country is 4.9 trillion, how on earth would we be junk and they will not be junk? The way forward, we must stop paying lip services to the kind of strategy we have been devising. Focus on agriculture. That's why I'm so happy with what Mr. Alan Travante has done in terms of the great transformational plan. Because whether we like it or not, it is as a result of a paltry $3 billion. That is why we are going through all this problem. And if you check our trajectory, 2007 we went into the template board was around 2.5 billion. The following year we went in for 3 billion and another 3 billion. Because this time around we are not getting the 3 billion. That is why we are where we are. And we must get it straight that we are not going to enjoy the support of the international community for the rest of our lives. So what do we do as a country to be able to grow ourselves? We have been given all the natural resources, fertile lands. Why are we not concentrating on those areas? Rather than being so happy with importation. Everything we want to import without producing. And so we look at the easy way out by going into the international market, borrow money, come and pay the existing debt, go back. What kind of life is this? And that's why we are where we are. The President and the Ministry of Finance have given a glimpse of hope that they intend to change their position based on the kind of calls that are coming. But it is also important that bondholders must understand that it is either they take their money or the country collapses. We cannot. It has to be a win-win situation. The ministry must meet the bondholders halfway, and the bondholders must also understand that accompanying every investment is risk. This has disproved all the textbooks that government businesses are risk-free. It is not true.
Only in Ghana.
It is not true. Government businesses, now it is disproving it. That it is, there are some form of risk. Though you will get your money, by the time that you want your money, you will not have it. You would have to wait. That is what this whole thing about domestic debt exchange is about. That people are expecting their interest or their principal this year. They say, no, wait. You can only have that next year, 5 years' time, 10 years' time. But how many people will survive this kind of situation? So, Sena, what can we say more? We can only wish all the parties in there the best of luck. I'm so sad and I'm affected by it. I'm affected by it.
Yeah, your money is in there.
I'm affected by it, but what can I say? You can only hope that things will improve. You understand? You can only hope that things will improve. And the Minister of Finance, he is part of the reasons why we are where we are. I don't know whether he was the one that advised the president, and I strongly believe he did. That made the president to say on the 30th of October 2022 that there was not going to be any haircut. You know, when the memorandum backing this whole debt exchange came out, somewhere on the 5th of December, the minister again said in his concluding remarks that individual investors were not going to be affected. You understand? You that have said we were not going to the IMF, you took us to the IMF. You that had pushed the president to say there was not going to be a haircut, you that have said that individual investors were not going to be affected, then you come back and tell us that now individual investors are going to be affected, and you still lead the negotiations. How on earth can we suffer this fate? So that even if the bondholders are going to accept, it is only tried law that you let a new face come as a Minister of Finance, so that people will then have a renewed confidence, so that people will even listen to him, that while you were not there, you are rather a victim of circumstance. So we can agree with you for all these negotiations to come to an end, for us to enjoy the IMF 3 billion. That can only show up our currency. But if you are still there, how confident will people have in you? How would they believe your words now, so that they can reach any amicable settlement? I don't understand why the president keeps keeping the man there. I don't. Honestly, if you ask me, it is tarnishing the image of this government. And I believe the earlier the president did what is right, the better. He may be your brother, but this goes beyond brotherhood. This is a serious matter. This is a bread and butter issue. You know how many times we have discussed this issue here? Anytime we come, if it's not cathedral, it is domestic debt. I pray and hope that next 2 weeks I will be saved the trouble of coming here to speak about domestic debt exchange as well as cathedral. I will end it.
Thank you. Thank you, Selo. Okay, my very controversial friend Angelo Kojofi-Agbe, he has an interesting twist to this. Says the truth be told, Kusi Boateng and his cohorts don't respect Honorable Okudzeto for anything. The tone of his release says it all. In their minds, they are just laughing and saying, look at this ever small boy. In their minds, they refuse to know Okudzeto is backed by powers of the state. Chana, I've taken a personal decision to worship stone as my God than to sit before these sinners to preach to me about Jehovah. That's Angelo Kojo Fiagbe. And I go to Nii. Yesterday, I was reminded of what you said about the zero-based budget, where you said, one, government has to go back, look at the basics, and everybody else who wants some money has to justify what they want. It was Professor Lord Mensah reminded me of that when he said government did not copy Jamaica properly. Yeah. Actually, what they did was to put forward a budget that was limited to spending what they generate. Yeah. Then it gave the people confidence. Then they decided to put their money. They said, okay, then we'll take some losses because you have shown some example. Anyway, let me listen to you.
Well, I think at the height of this domestic exchange debt issue, I have not had the opportunity to speak much on it. And today I'll try to provide some education and also predict how it will go. First and foremost, I want to talk about the primary market and the secondary market. You know, when companies need money, they either put forward their shares at the initial public offer for us to trade in and then provide those capital they need. And that is the initial public offer, would be called the primary market. Subsequent to that, once your shares are out there, anybody can go and sell and others can go and buy. That is not the initial offering. In terms of government, the only way they are able to also borrow is through these operations. And normally with the bonds and maybe treasury bills and all that, they are auctioned on the primary market as well. Unlike the companies, where even at the initial offers, individuals like us can buy with GOG bonds. I, as an individual, cannot go onto the primary market and actually trade or buy. The only people who are able to do that are the financial institutions and then the deposit-taking institutions such as the banks and all that. They go there and trade. Now they trade at a certain rate, interest rate, and then they come onto the secondary market where we can then trade in those bonds and make it available to us to either buy or sell. At this market, the interest rate is discounted to us, which means that the bank makes some money. And then the rest of us trade in there. Depending on how active your trade is, the market prices of your bond can either go up or drop. But at maturity, it is your principal that will be paid to you. Now, the risk you take for putting in your money there today and having it paid back to you in terms of the same nominal value. So if you put 100,000 there in, let's say, 2021, and the maturity is 5 years on, 5 years you will still be paid 100,000. You have taken a risk where the value of your money will depreciate, and therefore you needed to be compensated for that depreciation, so that if you do not have the exact value at the end or in terms of the maturity, if you don't have the same value as it was in 2001, at least you would have made something small based on the interest paid to you to also compensate you for putting your money in these bonds. Government, on the other hand, will always have to refinance some of these bonds. And what happens is that they take loans or they issue new bonds to refinance old bonds. Because sometimes they would have invested in projects that will take a longer period than the loan they took to actually recoup whatever they put in. And so you always have to get yourself ready to refinance what you have taken. And refinancing risk must always be gauged, carefully monitored, not to get into certain percentages. Because at that point, you will no longer be able to refinance yourself at an interest rate which keeps you safe. This is what we did not do as a country. And this is what the finance ministry failed to recognize. And it did not happen just in 2022. It started way back in 2018. That our refinancing risk was getting tighter and tighter. But we failed to actually look at those numbers. And we continued on the sprint of borrowing. And we sprinted so well between 2019 to 2020. We will come to the physical aspect. But this is a finance ministry, for Christ's sake. And I believe that we have people there who know what was right to do. And they failed miserably to do that. The other thing we must look at is whether this exchange program will be successful. And I will tell you, and I have told you before, it is never going to be successful. If you ask any businessman that with an inflation of 54.1%, right? If you work, assuming from today, 2023 to 2027, that you are going to get paid, if you have invested 100,000 in bonds, what it means is that you will get 15%, which is 15,000, with an interest rate of 54.1%, and inflation rate, sorry, and a period of 5 years to be able to be paid a principal of 15%. What it means actually is that your 15,000, the net present value, the value today of that future cash flow is 1,700 cedis. Today, if you hold 1,700 cedis, what that can buy, your 15,000 cedis will be able to buy the same thing in 2027. In 2027, yeah. That's what it means. We will go for that. So, if I am losing more than 90% of my 15,000, compensation cannot be 5%. If this exchange rate will succeed, debt exchange program will succeed, then inflation must drop to 7.8%, which is not possible. This is what was achieved in 2016. I'm only saying 7.8 because it has been achieved before in terms of inflation. I'm saying the only way you can call it a 50-50, which means I don't make anything, government, you don't get to pay me anything extra. Inflation must drop to 7.8%. It is not possible in the near term. It is not possible in the mid term. And that only means that with the interest of 5% paid for 4 or 5 years, or let's say 4 years, because 2023, no interest will be paid, will only give you a present value of 15,000 of that future cash flow of 15,000 that you are going to be paid. So what it means is that you have given your money to government for free. You would earn nothing on it. That is what can be referred to as 50-50, which Salo mentioned. Anything less than that will not succeed.
Unfortunately, I think we'd have to leave it there because it's my time is done.
Right.
I know only the channel manager can borrow time. That's why I've waited till now for her. So, but
this
thank
is a
you.
nice bargain.
Very nice, nicely done, Sena. Nicely done.
but I think I should say this before we go. You see, we must look at Act 930 again, because everything is restricted with regards to the banks or deposit taking institutions doing business with their affiliates, doing business with subsidiaries, doing business with. The only thing that was not restricted by Act 930 was the banks investing in government bonds, and that must be relooked.
Okay. Ama.
Well, a few things. So far we've been saying that this nation is in crisis. I think that it's about time we admit that we're actually in danger. You know, I mean, I think it's about time that as a people, we appreciate that we've passed crisis level. Now we are just in danger. We are having conversations that in my lifetime I've never heard before. You know, all I've ever been told was the need to save, how credible, you know, saving with government is, you know, and these are attitudinal progress, if I can say that we've chalked over the years. It's taken a long time to have some of these things become part and parcel of our culture as a people. People were more comfortable keeping their monies under their beds, things like that. It's taken us a long time to get to a point where people have trust in our banks. People have, and I say this from a place of having worked, you know, with a relatively new bank when it came into the country. Relatively, not as new, but I joined, you know, and all the conversations that needed to be had for people to trust, and it was off of the back of something, of a general distrust of, you know, keeping your money where you can't see it, and it's shocking that with one government, we seem to be eroding all of the gains. Let's talk digitization and what we've done with it. Let's talk of trying to build up to a cashless society and Momo and what we've done with it. It seems as if this government came into office and is just eroding all the gains that have been made over time, because all of these attitudes have direct consequences for our economy. Direct consequences for our economy. And at the end of the day, if you have a people who don't believe in the banks, who don't believe in saving with Momo, who have no trust in, you know, anything, where are we going as a people? What's next? Now, I speak as somebody who, at some point in my life, have had to rely on interest. Because there was a point at which I worked, and there was a point in my life where I didn't work. That's my reality. So if anybody has conversations around bonds and investments as being, you know, a sign of somebody being affluent, it's wrong. Sometimes it is the poor person that needs to have something running to sort of pay himself or pay herself. That's our reality, and I have lived that reality. I have. There was a point in my life at which I did not work. So, but for interest and, you know, things like that coming from somewhere, it would have been no income. And there are still people who live in that reality today. So if you tell somebody like that I'm holding on to your interest, and you make it sound as if, oh, I'm just holding on to it, I'll give it to you in 2 years, 3 years. You are not having a conversation. I think there's a lack of appreciation what we are asking. I've heard arguments like, let's have another conversation around determination of whose head to cut and all of that. And of course, I also completely agree with, TUC, with NAGRAT, with all of these 5, labor unions that have come out strongly for the pension schemes. But then even with the individual bond, holders, there's even a conversation to be had there. I don't agree about amount. I'm sorry. What people are saying that let's consider it's based on how much money you have and, listen, if you work if you work a 9 to 5 and you don't have any contract that's going to be giving you a lump sum there are people who earn in lumps. So he hits big one contract, he has 500,000 lying down. There are those people. The majority of us, we are paid at the end of the month. And we sort of deliberately save towards having a lump sum. There's no point at which in our lives we'll ever have any lump sum coming from anywhere. We don't work as contractors, we don't have any deals, there's nothing like that coming from anywhere. So for the large majority of Ghanaians, it is our salary that we save to have some of these lump sums, which is why I agree with about eroding the middle class. So the only reason why some people have some lump sum saved somewhere that they can go to at any point in time, if they should fall sick, if they should be ejected, if some calamity should be formed, their house should catch fire, if anything should happen, the only reason why they have any lump sum anywhere is because they have saved towards it. Years and years and years and years and years and years of saving to be able to have a lump sum. You don't joke with that. It is not middle class because of affluence. It's not middle class. And we always say that as Ghanaians, we live by magic. You look at people's salary and you wonder, he has 2 children. He pays this amount of school fees. How is he able to do that? This is how we are able to do that. This, from wise financial decisions such as investing, buying bonds, that is how we are surviving. Our magic is this. Because we can't live on our salary. Our salary will not take care of us. So I think that there's a whole lack of understanding or lack of appreciation of what we are asking of the people of Ghana. For those of us that are rich and have huge sums of money, we think an investment is a luxury. Oh, I have it. No. For a majority of us, it is not.
A way of life.
You can't touch it. There's no conversation to be had. You can't come and tell me, wait till next year. No, I can't. I live on it. That's the money that pays my children's fees. We can't have that conversation. And I think that government needs to appreciate that. Now, I really agree about the Jamaican example, which is the crux of my conversation. If we are in danger, how is government showing me that we are in danger? For which reason we can have conversations around, readjusting or restructuring. It's business as usual. We just had a conversation about a National Cathedral. How can we still, as a people that's in danger, be having conversations about luxury constructions? Yeah. How? It's almost as if it's business as usual, as if as a people, as a government, all of us, it hasn't dawned on us the dire situation in which we are in. We are having business as usual conversations. Where is the national dialogue? Where is the national dialogue about where we are today? How is my president showing to me that he understands the position in which he's put me and he is with me? He's only with me when it comes to my money. Sena, you see, and just a few things that I just said that I want to address. This issue about the Constitution allows the president to be able to appoint as many ministers as he wants and all of that. Which then brings us to this issue of good faith. And why perhaps this is the time for us as Ghanaians, when we are electing public office holders, to look out for good faith. The people that we elect, their characters, their integrity. Because we are putting everything into their hands. Literally, we are putting the money in our pockets into their hands. I think that this should be a wake-up call to us. So that when people like, and I'm going to be as frank as I can, when somebody like Nii Japan suddenly turns around and comes to you and asks for your vote, think twice. Think. Because it's not just about a president sitting somewhere and you sitting somewhere. No. At the end of the day, it will affect the money in your bank account. Who you elect as president, the government that you elect, it will affect the money that you have in your savings account, your bank account. It's going right there, direct. It's not a remote, you know, it's not some government up there somewhere that, you know, I'm MPP, I'm NDC, so me, I vote MPP, me, I vote NDC. That's not the conversation. It affects you directly. So it's time for us to appreciate that the constitution that we run as a country, the system that we run as a country, is dependent on good faith. Good faith is an integral aspect of the kind of system that we are running in this country. And so who we elect must be very important to us. People of integrity. People of integrity. People who have proven track records of being able to exercise good faith. Because without it, Sena, we are doomed. We are doomed. They will toy with everything. They will erode everything. Play with everything that we hold dear. Coming elections, I hope that the Ghanaian has learned the necessary lessons and would go there, forget party, forget tribe, and vote for people of integrity, from our MPs to our president. It is so crucial. We can't make these mistakes again. We cannot. We can't afford it at all. Now, a few other things. I mean, Solomon speaks brilliantly to it. This whole confusion, you see. And for me, at this point, asking the finance minister to step down is crucial. It's not just about perception. It's about letting me know that you understand where we are. That would be one of the good faith actions this president could do. One of them. Letting me know that you understand the situation that we are in right now. You're still keeping him at post. Upon all the cries, upon everything that everybody is saying. This man will come and say, no IMF. Oops, sorry, IMF. For me, the funniest was the toll booths. As basic as that, this issue with the toll booths. We won't take toll booths again. Then in less than 2 months, oops, we will take toll booths again. What thinking went into that? No, we won't take from individual bondholders. Oops, sorry, we will take from individual bondholders. At every point, this finance minister is confused, completely confused. He doesn't know what he is doing. And listen to what we've just been told by the experts, that no matter what we do, whether we do haircut or headcut, the situation is just untenable. Meanwhile, all of this has been sort of predicated on going to IMF. And we still want to let this person that is so confused lead the IMF conversation. And you come back and tell me to what? Share in the burden and not take my own money. Ridiculous. Sena, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ama. You always simplify things.
Answer to that. We are taught that there is no risk to government bonds. Well, the only risk.
No, he said there's always risk. There's always risk. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Of course. And one of the risks is recklessness.
Yeah.
So you are attributing the recklessness. Alan is coming to save the situation. What is the of you come here?
Where has he been this whole time?
As for John Mama, but John was the one taking the decision. John Mama put us in a mess. He put us in a mess.
Okay. PRC Ose Anto says, Sena, so Solo wants to tell us that the health ministers claim that the money for the early hospital had been secured and even works are started were lies. Sena, Alan says MPP is a party of businessmen buying and selling. So what is the basis of the transformational plan?
Allah has never said so. Please answer him for me.
Okay, no, that's why you are here.
Yes.
So I don't when you are here, I can respond.
You should not be running away with this kind of propaganda. Alan is saying that the new agricultural revolution, industrial transformation, what he has already started at the Ministry of Trade and Industry, is what he's going to amplify, giving the opportunity. And I'm very happy that we are talking about credibility. The persona of the leading candidates come 2024 is what will play out.
If he is able to do that, he need investment to go in there, into the agri sector. Like
yes, exactly.
So how do you navigate the nation from
current
this
difficulties?
Fantastic.
Into
what have you been talking about? What have you been talking about? We are talking about frivolous expenditure as well. You know what we are talking about?
We will take those.
Don't worry, we are there. We will go to the market and market our candidates.
Thank you.
No architect and perpetrator of our current woes will be allowed to wash himself clean
Like
in the last minute.
That presided over rocks in between 2013 and 2016 will be allowed to come back.
This trick will
it will never wash. The business of washing the mama and bringing back, it's never going to wash.
Let me say a happy birthday to two Franks. One is Frank Foley, who is also known as the Freshman, who works with Heritage FM in Kokwe. And also say a happy birthday to Frank Adoyauche in Germany. And belated happy birthday to Professor Mrs. Yao, who also celebrated her birthday yesterday. And say a big thank you for making time to join us on the show today. It was a pleasure seeing Nii Yarboi Annan. First time I'm seeing him this year, but it's just a few days into the year. Nii, wonderful to see you.
But he's also called the donor. You see the different two names we are talking about.
Sitting
of the dawn and
sitting right by. Sitting right by me is Maame Ama Pratt, who is the general manager of Pan-African Television, and of course the couch. And then it's always a pleasure seeing Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, member of Parliament for North Tongu. It's from my area, so that's why. How come I said everything that I want? Somebody is even promising you beer. I know you. Do you drink? No. Honorable does not joke with his soberness, but I will compromise on it. So bring the beer to me. I'll go to beer, whatever you can add that to make the party enjoyable. Oh, I'll take the bribe so that it doesn't go to him.
Just congratulations. I appreciate it. I thank everybody.
You have to pay gift tax.
Well, a big thank you to Solomon Owusu, who is a member of the MPP's communication team. One thing I forgot to say a bit earlier was that he's an unrepentant believer in Alan Chamantin's bid to be president.
Yeah, he will be the next president.
My name is Sena Nombo. We are back same time next week with another edition of the show from the crew here at Pan-African Television, our affiliates across the country and Radio Gold. We wish you the best of the rest of the weekend. Enjoy and relax, and a fruitful week. We'll see you next Saturday.
Into the land of freedom, he's the Redeemer. He has labored